Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome. Today, of course, another day of the 2020 Online Olympiad. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. I hope you had a good night's sleep and that you're ready for some more chess action, of course. And I'm here today, this morning, joined by Mr. Grandmaster Arthurs Nixons. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you, Roland. I love how it sounds, Mr. Grandmaster. Yeah, I'm of course very happy to join today's coverage. So it's a big honor for me to do the coverage with you, Roland. And I hope today is going to bring quite a lot of exciting games.
Yeah, of course. We're always hoping for that. And of course, the honor is absolutely mine, of course. So let's remind everybody what the format is of this whole Olympiad, what it exactly entails. So we've got a nice card for everyone. Well, it's a huge event with 163 teams and over 1,500 players from around the world. We've seen countries participating that I've never even heard of before, and it's very nice to see how chess is doing in the world, how popular the game is throughout the world. Teams are split into five divisions, and those are based according to strength and according to time zone. Of course, we don't want to have teams playing in the afternoon while other players are playing in the during the night. That would not be fair. So that's why we're doing time zones. And yeah, we are now currently at Division 3. So let's take a look at the schedule, what everybody has to look forward to. Division 3, that's where we are right now. It's August the 9th, and we have round 7, 8, and 9. And we will see which teams will move on to Division 2, which will be next weekend. So yeah, and of course the current standings. Let's see which teams are still on the race for the promotion to the next division. And this morning, we will start with Pool A and Singapore, Albania, and Malaysia. So far in the money, but we still have 3 games to go. So yeah, it's still undecided for a few spots and a few teams. All right. Do you have a country that you're rooting for, Arthur?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like you said, I don't know many of the teams. There are obviously some familiar faces. For example, I think I saw Denmark there playing.
Yep.
And for Denmark is my teammate from the Swedish league, Jonas Bull Bjerre, one of the youngest talents in Denmark. Probably is going to be a super GM in some years. But apart from that, I mean, I do know some names, obviously. But well, I'll be cheering for Team Latvia, of course. But I think Team Latvia is playing next week.
Team Latvia is playing in the next division. I was actually going to ask you about that, if they are participating and how they are. How do you feel about their chances? I mean, they're facing a lot of top teams, as everybody can see. Germany is participating, Romania is participating, the Netherlands, of course, with Anish Giri and some other top players as well. So,
That's
yeah,
going
how
to
do you
be
feel about Latvian chances there?
that actually could be quite fun. I mean, if you would be commentating this stuff, and let's say Team Latvia is playing against Netherlands, right? I mean, I'm from Latvia, you're from Netherlands. We are gonna
Yeah.
be totally unbiased, right?
Yeah, of course, we're going to be totally unbiased. Of course, we don't want to. Yeah, we are, of course, professional commentators. We don't let our emotions take over.
Of
Of
course.
course, we're going to be absolutely
Yeah,
unbiased.
but I
Okay,
mean,
let's move on to what kind of matches can we see today with round
yeah,
7?
sure.
Round 7 in Pool A. I think a good match to take a look at is actually Albania versus Ireland. Those two countries are still in the race for promotion to the next division, and so that would be an interesting clash to see. I think Ireland is doing pretty well in this pool so far. They are one of the surprises, I would say. So yeah, I'm going to see if the games are already starting.
Well, I know
And
quite a few players from Ireland,
all right.
so yeah, it will be interesting to see how they're doing.
Have you followed in general the Olympiad a little bit?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. I mean, I've followed the previous coverages a little. I mean, not so much really, but so far I think it's been going really well. And there have been quite a surprises. Well, typically Olympiads, not only I mean online Olympiad, but Olympiads as such, they tend to produce some surprises, so that's completely normal.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
but these players I do not know. Killian Delaney, yeah, I don't know him. I know, of course, the leading player from Ireland, Alexander Baburin, who has played for a national team of Ireland for many years, but I don't think he's playing here today, or is he?
I also did not see his name in the lineup,
Right.
unfortunately, there. No, I think Killian Delaney, we're looking now at board one of Ireland versus Albania. So, yeah, and like I said, Ireland doing pretty well in this pool so far. Yeah, one of the surprises. And yeah, we'll see how they are going to do. Of course, yeah, we're just the games have just started, so we only see the opening at this point.
So
Yeah,
is this still the London system, right? I mean, obviously the London is the second move, bishop f4, but including knight f3, the second move, and then bishop f4. Is this still at London? Probably it is, right?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, the setup is with bishop f4, and usually you play knight f3 and e3, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. So black plays the most aggressive continuation c5, knight c6, queen b6. That's the typical idea. And as I heard from another expert commentary before, this is usually the way how black tries to punish white immediately by applying the pressure on the b2 pawn because the bishop is gone out on f4 and try to take over the matters very quickly. I mean, but it doesn't really work like that. But that's an interesting and very aggressive attempt.
Yeah, I think that white usually plays c3 and queen b3 to try and counter that, if I'm not mistaken, right? So then
Right.
you'll have this Western-like picture at Ennio Morricone soundtrack, and then you see a face-off with between the two queens on the b file. Yeah, I think it's just a very solid line for white, of course, and usually not much is going on in the opening, I believe. Actually, I have a question for you, Arthur. Like,
Sure.
what do you think is the most played opening so far in this whole Olympia? What's your guess?
Is it the London? Can't be.
Yes, it's the London. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we've seen
Unbelievable.
a lot of Londons in the Olympiad so
That
far.
must be because of Magnus, right?
Yeah, Magnus, of course, was one of the yeah has been popularizing this opening. Yeah, for example, a game that comes to mind is his win over Evgeny Tomashevsky, I believe, in the Tata Steel tournament. Do you remember that one, maybe?
No, I mean, I do remember some Magnus's games, obviously, because he was one of the first, I mean, pretty much the first who started to play London at the highest level and with great success. But yeah, I absolutely wouldn't have normally guessed. I mean, if there wasn't London in front of us, that the London is the most popular opening. Yeah, that's
Well,
interesting.
yeah. Well, I've been covering every division so far, and well, at least in the lower divisions, this is from what I've seen the most popular opening for whites. But yeah, of course, with the next divisions, we're going to see more grandmasters, more higher level play, of course, and then
You know,
probably
Roland,
will not be.
Roland, what is funny? What is funny about this opening is that I remember that in our childhood, at least, when we were taught to play chess on some very simple openings. So back then, it was called something like there was a less popular name, something like the swine oration, something like that. This is the absolutely the easiest and the simplest way to set up the opening, and nobody would have thought that after something like 20 years, it's going to be something like really highly contested line. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's so unbelievable. I mean, Magnus has truly been revolutionary in chess with his opening choices as well. Very solid, very it seemingly passive, seemingly not ambitious, but with great yeah, with great strategic mind behind every opening. But okay, enough about the London and enough about this play. It's moving very slowly. I'm going to try and find something more exciting for us to follow. I think we're looking at board, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, board three. So this is the first women's board in the match. Yeah, what do you think? What's your first thought?
What is this opening actually? It's seemingly white took on c5. Yeah. Okay. This is very passive way, of course, to play it out. It cannot pose black any trouble. So black is not experiencing any problems whatsoever in the opening. But I mean, it doesn't mean it's not playable. I think there might be some interesting ideas from white at the right time. I don't know if white is actually going to do this, but play at the right time something like b4, a3, bishop b2, and push c3, c4, presumably after capturing on d5 or before that. Some sort of a Pearce idea along the line somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree there. I think well, with the passive setup, you could compare it to the London like we've seen before, but here white plays e3, not even bothering to get the bishop out to f4. It reminds me, if in this position, it reminds me of a little bit of a, how do you call it, a Philidor setup, like with the e4, e5 opening, and then knight of 6, d6 for black.
Yeah.
It sort of reminds me to that, and this plan with b4 is one of the most common there. So I'm just gonna. What do you think about a move like a5 here for black? Would that be good?
Well, definitely, if black is going to play a5, then white is not going to push b4 anymore, but concentrate something doing the center. But okay, I think we can stretch that because bishop g4 was played already.
Yeah, bishop g4, very normal developing move, allowing b4. Yeah, I don't think there's too much going on. Although after queen e2, maybe some ideas with knight h5.
Yeah, I mean, I slightly don't like this queen e2. I think it is typically a great idea to invest some little time by playing h3 first and trying to understand where this bishop is going to go. Because, for example, I mean, black might just want to take on f3. I mean, you never know. Just might take on f3, and then white automatically gains two bishop advantage. Yeah, you take the queen and captured twice, perhaps on e4. So white is just enjoying a healthy open position with two bishops. So, I mean, probably black play bishop g4 to play bishop h5. But then, like you said, Roland, black doesn't have access to knight h5 as well, and we might actually play at the right time a timely g2, g4. I mean, not right now, of course, but there might be some moment to make it actually possible.
Yeah, I agree. I agree as well there. And actually, if you take on d5, then black also has an isolated pawn on the e file that could become a possible target, perhaps for white down the road. But yeah, I don't. I also agree. I don't like the queen e2 move that has been played because actually after knight h5, I guess white has moves like knight b3 or maybe e takes d5 even with queen e4 ideas. Maybe it's not so bad,
Well,
but
no, I don't think it's bad. Yeah, probably. I think I would have played h3 myself, but yeah, you're right. I don't think it's bad.
yeah, maybe it's not ideal, but it's certainly not bad so far. Okay, let me see if I can find something. I'm always trying to find something exciting. I mean, we have a grandmaster, of course, in the broadcast, so why not put you a little bit to the test, right?
Well, and I have to ask, has somebody played the Latvian gambit so far?
Oh, wait, if I'm not mistaken, that's e4, e5, knight f3, and then
f5.
f5.
It's not really
Yes,
like a
yes.
national thing, but I'm just curious.
All right, so let me put that on the board actually. So what Arthur is talking about is this opening. This is called the Latvian Gambit right here. Yeah,
It's bad. Don't play.
unfortunately, I haven't seen it before. But I think I
That's not
think there
surprising.
was a top player who has played this opening, right? On a high level, if I'm not mistaken.
Really? I mean, who?
I think
Um,
I'm not sure. I think that I think there I remember a game where black was doing all right somehow. I mean, I don't believe the opening is good to be honest, but I do think
well,
that
the
there.
Latvians don't play it.
Yeah, it's the same with
That's
the
what it
Dutch.
is.
A lot of Dutch players don't play the Dutch either. So, but yeah, yeah, this is the Latvian Gambit, everyone. I haven't seen it before in this Olympiad, unfortunately. I would love to see it though. It should be
That will
exciting.
generate some action. I can assure you.
All
Okay.
right. So, yeah, knight b3 played probably with maybe even bishop g5 in mind.
I think knight b3 is a mistake, a positional mistake, because white shouldn't allow capturing on e4 and give up this light square bishop. And here I would already, yeah, exactly. I would think about capturing twice on e4 and then just think later, because this light square bishop is a really important piece in white's position. So I was really thinking about this b2, b4 still make it possible instead of the knight b3. And try to use some Philidor Pearce ideas with a3 and c4. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you said before, with b4, a3, bishop b2, and maybe push with c4 at some point. Yeah, that's a very common idea. I totally agree there. Knight b3 might still be okay. I think it's W's. I agree totally with you there. And after d takes, bishop takes, maybe the best is actually to wait with taking for one move. Because if you take right now, then you are going to lose the bishop pair because the two bishops are attacked. So maybe it's a good idea to wait one move, just put the bishop back, for example. And then this bishop, I don't think it can move because you have e4. So on the next move, you will take the bishop pair, and it should be.
Well, I mean, white could try to play bishop g5 and win a tempo with rook a to d1, and then capture on f6. But yeah, I mean, of course, black is not having any problems here. Yeah, maybe take or bishop h4. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
More
I think that black is doing perfectly fine here. I mean, bishop pair. This knight is not ideally placed. Yeah, knight b3 is in general not a good move, I believe. Yeah, I think the knight has to go back maybe to b2 and c4 to get some more activity going. But yeah, we'll see. Of course, let's see what happened in the game. Bishop e7 played. Okay, that's a move I did not expect.
That's a slightly modest move. I think bishop b6 for that matter was slightly more active if black wouldn't want to take on e4. But I think black is playing slightly cautiously, not to miss any bishop g5 pin ideas. But yeah, so I mean, bishop e7 probably is a solid combination. Why not?
Yeah, and okay, black eventually did manage to take on e4, so I guess we can conclude that black is doing still very well here, right?
I think black is just better. I think so, please. That's my first impression. Two bishops and center. The misplaced knight on b3, the bishop on d2 is not doing much. So I would choose this position with black, of course.
And what happens after white takes the pawn on e5?
That's a piece blunder, right? Knight e5 and bishop b3.
Yeah, and the bishop on d2 will fall afterwards. Yeah. All right, you're sharp in the morning. Just a little test there.
Yeah, I mean, I see this stuff. I mean, unbelievable.
All right, let's move on to the next one. I believe this is board 4, so that means the second women's board. And actually, before we get into this game, I think I should talk a little bit about the board setups, because it's very different from your usual Olympiad, where you can see where the best players are actually playing. In this case, we have two open boards, so that means usually the two strongest players of a country, and then you have two women's boards and two youth boards with one open youth board and one female youth board. So usually what you see, it's going to be 3 women and 3 men playing for the team. So yeah, that is why I keep saying that it's the first women's board and the second women's board. And I'm a big fan of this format because it's not just about the best players in the country. It's also about the potential that a country has. For example, if India is going to play, they have a lot of potential world champions, of course, with Pragyananda, for example. And
it's unbelievable how India has changed. I mean, in terms of the chess strength, has changed in the last 20 years, right? Because I remember something like, what was it, 20 years ago, there were pretty much 2 GMs. It was Vishwanathan Anand, the very first GM of India, and the BM de Barrois was the second. I mean, that's it. I mean, that was pretty much it. Maybe there was somebody else, but now, I mean, it's, 66 grandmasters, and the list is growing with many, many strong GMs, young talents, super talents like Nihal Saring, what was his first name? Pragyananda, Ramesh Babu Pragyananda. Yeah, I always keep forgetting the name.
And Gakesh, I believe, or
Gukesh, yeah, as well.
Gukesh.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
they're really doing great.
Yeah, it's truly unbelievable. I guess that Anand become world champion put a spark, put a, how do you say, a spike in interest in chess. I think because yeah, of course, if you have a world champion in your country, then of course it will spike some interest in the rest of the youth. Of course, it was the same with the Netherlands actually. When Anish Giri was doing very, very well in top level, I think chess started booming a little bit, and now we have also a lot of talents in our youth department as well.
Actually, I think that's a great topic. We could talk about this for a long time, because the presence of strong players, they help to generate the next generation of strong players. Because, I mean, Netherlands before Anish, of course, you had, and you still have, Loic van Wely and who was a Jero and Piquet and other strong players. And I like very often to draw comparisons, for example, with France, because in France you had Gilles Lautier. Then, with the presence of Gilles Lautier, appeared Etienne Bacro, and after Etienne Bacro appeared Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So, I mean, it helps. It really helps the youngsters and the best chess talents in the country. They are seeing these examples.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, they can also help the youth become better. They are when they are declining in their strength because of age or because of lack of motivation or something. They very often try to help the youth become better. They switch to coaching. For example, Peter Leko from of course the legendary chess player from Hungary is now coaching Vincent Kamer, I believe, from Germany, and Vincent
Yeah.
Kamer is now one of the biggest talents in Germany. So, yeah, it definitely helps to have strong players in your country, indeed. So, okay, but then of course I have to ask, what about Alexei Shirov? Did he have like a big influence in Latvia?
Yeah, of course, with his. That's a slightly complicated topic because unfortunately he has left Latvia for the moment, but he has returned to Latvian chess in which year was it, 2011 and 2012. So that saw a certain boom, an increase of chess popularity here in Latvia. I mean, he's still around in Riga. He lives in Riga, as far as I know. He's just not representing the team Latvia anymore. But yeah, of course, his presence definitely makes chess more popular.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know about Sheriff that he's playing also in for Spain. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I wanted to ask you this slightly
Okay.
awkward question, I guess. Yeah. All right, but I think that Latvia is doing actually pretty well with some new talents and some new. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kovalenko is doing pretty well.
Yeah, Kovalenko came over from Ukraine to represent Latvia around at the same time when Shirov changed his federation from Spain around 2011 or 12. I mean, I already don't remember the year. So he's been a very solid player for Team Latvia for already quite some years. And the highest he's reached up to 2700. We
Hmm.
also have some other strong GMs like Nikita Meshkov, Tom Cantons. I think in the next weekend, the team Latvia is going to have Tom Cantons as the uh, strongest player for the team. Nikita is taking the break, and yeah, I'm not going to play, unfortunately, for Team Latvia because I hope to provide some commentary.
All right. Well, let's move on. We've been talking a lot, not focusing on the game. So I think let's take a look at this. Is once again the first board between Ireland and Albania. So a lot of moves have been played. So we started with a very slow London, but Black is now pushing with F5 and G5. Who do you think's better and why?
Quite a bit has changed here on the thing before we last checked the game because right after the opening, what I wanted to say immediately, it has direct resemblance to the exchange Caracan system because you can get the same system, right? E4 C6 D4. Maybe you can just very quickly show it. E4 C6, D4 D5, E takes C takes, Bishop D3, Knight C6, and C3. And typically here, the dream position for black is to exchange the light square bishops on F5. And he is even trying to do this in a funny way, like Bishop G4, Bishop H5, Bishop G6, and try to force this, or even double the G pawns by playing G6 and Bishop G5.
Yeah,
But here,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and here when we look at this position, which they got after the London system, I mean, Black managed to exchange the bishops right away. So that shouldn't, of course, uh, pose any problems for Black. But I mean, it's not. It doesn't mean it's not playable.
no, it's just a very solid approach from White. Not nothing too ambitious, I would say. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, oh, White did not want to exchange those bishops, though. What do you think about that choice?
Uh, well, I don't know. White is trying to keep the position slightly unbalanced,
Hmm.
provoking perhaps his opponent to do some weaknesses. And I think you also would agree with me that provocation, especially in professional chess at the professional level, it plays really a big part. So that you are provoking your opponent to do some committal decisions which might actually backfire.
Yeah, exactly. Like in this case, you mean, for example, a move like
Yeah,
G5 that
G5.
could weaken the king side position. Yeah, I agree there, but I think it sort of backfired because in the position that
It
we have
already
here,
backfired. Okay.
yeah, I'm not. Do you disagree?
No, no. I mean, I don't say that. I just did not yet manage to evaluate the position. Yeah, I was just saying it might backfire. You're saying
It
it
might
already backfired.
backfire. Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, the pawns look very solid like this, and I don't think that white has any chance to break through on the king side. But on the other hand, white did just want a pawn
Yeah, but
on
it's a pawn, right?
yeah,
That,
and okay, black is threatening a move like g4 and knight takes d4, I believe. But yeah, okay, I think white can just play. Well, how do you solve that? Maybe you need to play a move like knight b3.
I
But
think that's one of my favorite strategies. Grab a pawn and think later. I mean, pawn is a pawn, right? You can always give it back. And why just took a pawn for what? I mean, for some control in the center for black. I mean, it's okay. The knight on e4, of course, is pretty, but I mean, white can even play something like rearrange the pieces, play knight b3, queen e2, and if necessary, I can sack the pawn on e5. I mean, I can play at the right time knight e5 and rearrange the other knight to d4 after the d4 square frees up. So
yeah,
I think
yeah.
I'd choose white. I would choose white here.
I think I would agree here. Yeah. For example, after knight b3, I do think the black has good compensation for the pawn. But like you said, the knight after, let's say I play a move like a5 to try and push the knight back, then you can play queen e2, and after a4 you can play something like knight c1, maybe like this. Okay, in this case, black has a3, which looks pretty devastating, I think. But
Yeah.
still, yeah, I agree with your strategy there. Maybe knight b3 is not the best move. Maybe,
I mean, there was also knight c5 move, but of course, this a3 move is quite annoying. I mean, you can do the same, of course, idea with knight c5 because with queen e2, a4, and knight c5, and still try to rearrange the knight to d3. But then, of course, we need to understand. That's a check. Yeah, I missed that. Yeah, so yeah, not
yeah.
so sharp. Still, not so sharp. I'm missing that.
Okay. Yes, yes. So yesterday, when Jordan was here, he said like, okay, for every mistake, I'm gonna do one push-up. Would you do the same?
I don't know. I mean, do I have to push-ups right now?
No, no. During the break, obviously, that was the
I'll do
joke.
them in the break, off screen.
Yeah, but Jordan is a fitness. Is very into fitness, so he absolutely did not mind. But yeah, never mind. But yeah, chess is a concrete game. You always have to worry about checks like this. This tactic, unfortunately, does not work. But maybe it's still okay for white after a move like king h1. Black has to protect the pawn, and maybe you can start pushing like this. I think that I don't know. Rook
I think
e8.
black is still risking here because the king is exposed, and I'm not so sure for what reason. Because of course these pawns on f5, g5 they look very menacing, but as far as I know, you cannot really checkmate your opponent with just two pawns. And the general rule is these pawns they don't go back. As soon as you push g7 and g5, they just don't go back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's a very risky approach for black. But I mean, like we discussed, I mean, why doesn't he even have to give up this pawn immediately back? I would like to keep it actually.
Yeah, if possible. I did not see a way yet, but maybe our player from Albania knows about a way. A3 played. G4 takes knight h4, knight takes d4.
Oh, that's a blunder.
Is it a blunder?
I
Oh,
think.
queen d. Whoa, no, no, no.
What?
It's okay. It's okay. Knight f3, knight takes f3. Oh yeah. Okay, this is the blunder you were talking about, I guess. That's quite
I
one piece.
was. I didn't see that deep. I was just thinking that knight takes on d4 is the blunder because why just blunder the pawn on d4? I didn't see all of this sequence, of course. I mean,
Yeah, knight takes d4, queen d2. The idea is that if black plays a move like knight b5 to protect the queen, then white can take on h6, and there's good mating potential there. It looks very good for white, but black has knight f3 here, and of course the idea is to take here. But once again, white has knight takes f3, and after queen b6, which I think has been played. Let me check. Knight d4, e5. Black is winning the pawn back, but after rook takes f5, I think that all the complications were in favor of white. Wouldn't you agree?
I might, but the question is, what is going to happen after queen takes on b2 at some time because this rook on a1 is under attack, and
That's
what is
true.
the material situation right now on the board? Because if you capture the pawn on d4, black's going to recapture it on b2. and there's no checks on the king.
Yeah, and if you take and you play rook c2 next, then you might be in a world of trouble here.
Yeah, then black is
Also
taking
with
over.
a dangerous e pawn over here. Can we just say that it's a draw after rook a f1 though? Just rook c2, rook f8, and then keep checking
Yeah,
everywhere.
probably white should be already happy. But is this a forced line actually? I mean, it definitely
It
looks
might very
interesting.
well be. Let's see what happened in the game. So e takes d4. This is the current position on the board. I think you have to take like this, don't you? Well, you could burn all bridges and play a move like queen f4, but I think that might be too much, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm thinking about maybe I can try to somehow keep the queens on the board, because if I'm going to trade the queens on d4, there's no way I'm playing this for the win, because black is going to be so active with the king, with the rooks on the second rank. So maybe something like queen f4, or start with another move. I mean, yeah, d takes king h1, but is there a checkmate? I mean, I don't know.
I think that white is over pushing. I don't see after c takes b2 how white is ever going to mate here.
Well, there is going to be a checkmate, only for black is going to be checkmating, right?
Yeah, if
I think
queen
so.
takes g4, just king h8 and no checks. So
Yeah,
I think
rook
rook
c1 is a
c1.
big threat. Yeah.
Yeah, this I think that white over pushed here. I think that well, maybe white was trying to push for a win also because well, it's an international master versus a FIDE master, so maybe the white player was feeling yeah, how to say, pushed for to
Roland,
necessary.
can we try to do like this? I think that the c pawn on c3 is too dangerous. Can I capture it on d4 first? I had this idea. Try to keep the queens on the board. Let's say c takes on d4, queen b2, and queen d1. Can I do this? Because I'm
Ooh,
targeting queen g4, but is this working? Because black has no access to h5. Although he could play king h8, and I don't know what is happening there.
I would try to play rook c2 anyhow.
I could still do this. Okay.
Queen takes king h8, and now you have problems with on two fronts here.
I think you're right. Yeah. So it doesn't look like. So of course, rook f1, doubling the rooks. There's going to be a thematic checkmate. Rook g2, rook h2, and that, yeah, you could show it. That doesn't work because black is checkmating white and queen g2. Yeah. So
Okay.
somebody's going to get checkmated here.
Yeah, I think white overpushed here. I think that it's now black who's playing for a win. Oh, king g6 though. Queen g6, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, protecting g4 and maybe also indirectly eyeing the rook on b1. So if the rook moves, for example, to well, where do you go? I mean, if you play rook e5, then you can play e3, I believe.
I think it's just lost for white. So white collapsed very quickly. Is this the game?
This is the game. Queen g6 is currently on the board.
With the pawn on b2, I think white can just resign because it's going to advance, and queen takes an f5 might be an actual threat to play immediately. And the following rook c1 check, and because of the background problems, white is just losing. So he needs to make some kind of fortress, but then you can still play rook c1 check. I mean, it changes nothing.
Well, king h2.
And take on b1. Ah, there's a rook on b8, right.
Yeah,
What are you
I'm
seeing?
trying to save white here. Maybe there is some potential after h4. Yeah, I don't see exactly how black can. Well, of course you can take first on h3. I'm not sure. And then, yeah, if you take like this, then you have got extra checks at your disposal. Maybe
Right.
it's looking. I think that it's looking like black is playing for the win at least. And I'm trying to save white here a little bit with move like h4, but it seems to me like, oh, actually we need to talk about something else because white is very low on time as well. Look at the time
Oh,
difference.
4 seconds. Unbelievable. How do you get so low on time? What is it? 2 seconds? 3 seconds per move?
You get 5 seconds increment
Five
per move,
seconds.
so
Okay,
it's
five
not that
seconds.
bad, but still, it's of course we've seen players get flagged, yeah, in the previous divisions as well. So time is still a big factor. Actually, let me see what happens. Okay, so h4 was played. It seems. Yeah, h4 takes, and now queen takes e4 takes, king takes g2. Rook f8 is a threat here.
Rook f8, yeah, is a very annoying threat.
Yeah.
I still should be better for black, but I'm not convinced this was
The way
the
to go.
best continuation.
Maybe queen c6.
Yeah, but then again, black is not winning immediately because after queen c6, we can just capture the queen and play rook f2 and try to suffer this. But of course, it seems like lost. Yeah, it seems lost.
It seems lost, but it's also very hard for black to continue. I mean, I don't see a way forward for black at the moment. I mean, probably you have to exchange the b2 pawn for the a pawn, and then it should be, well,
Yeah, I
maybe,
would love to get the king to the queen side, right? Somehow magically jump over to e8 and get to b3, a2, but it's not going to happen. The rook on f2 is keeping the king imprisoned at the king side.
yeah, exactly.
But what do
So,
you, Roland? What do you think? Where was the mistake for, or maybe all of this was a forced line? Because I'm actually quite impressed with this whole sequence of knight takes on d4, queen d2, knight f3 check. That was what was quite interesting.
you mean a few moves back, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, when this whole combination started with this knight d4, I'm wondering, did he calculate all of this until then? Because this is some GM stuff, actually. So it would seem it's not really that obvious.
Yeah, I
And
think so. Yeah, maybe White calculated all this stuff. And on the other hand, why not just play a move like knight b3 here to try and keep the pawns on the board? It looked like a safe continuation. So, and it's a very long line to calculate. I'm not sure that he saw everything.
even GMs
But
can make a mistake here. They're very
yeah,
easy. And
and
from afar, to evaluate this position in a line, let's say you're playing with black, and from afar, to give a proper evaluation, let's say you're calculating 5 or 6 moves ahead in a rapid game, can you give a proper evaluation? I think it's not so easy, really, right?
no, it's really hard. Yeah, calculation is one of the hardest thing in chess, I believe. And this is actually how many moves are this? I think it's about 10 to 15 moves deep, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because white has to see h4 in the end, I think. And well, maybe queen g6 was not the best actually. Maybe black had something better. Yeah, but I think with queen f4, white took a very risky approach, and it was clearly black who was in the driving seat there. So
Yeah.
I think white should have taken on d4 a few moves ago. Yeah, just after, just take back on d4, and I think black is safely playing for.
We sort of saw a draw there, but of course, black wouldn't have to force a draw after queen d4. What was the line? Queen d4, grab, grab. Uh,
Um,
No,
queen
was it queen
d4.
d4? C takes on d4, right?
Yeah,
C takes on d4, queen b2, takes, double the rooks on the f file. Of course, black doesn't have to play rook e8 to c2.
yeah,
Maybe e3 is a possibility.
yeah. Maybe this is once again playing with fire for white. Maybe this is well, black
Still,
playing.
rook e5 is okay, I think.
Yeah, rook e5. Well, actually, rook c2 is once again a draw. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you play e2, you're just going to play rook here. And then this pawn is going to move, and probably it's a draw once again. All right, but we've got some time scramble, so I need to check the other games as well. I think this is looking to a draw. Let me check. We've actually got this ending on the board, which we said.
It was very close. Yeah, but I had the feeling that black was winning at some point when he rearranged the queen to g6, which is such a powerful pawn on b2. It felt there must have been a forced win, but yeah, either way, black did not find it.
Yeah, it seems like it. I think. Oh, h4 on the board. Oh, that's clever. That's clever, actually. So the idea is that if you take, you're going to play rook b4 and rook takes a4, and you are going to try and push these pawns forward.
Oh, he played h4. Wow.
That's a clever move. King takes.
Very nice. So it's a g4, rook a4, and black is just going to play it back, rook a to b4, a4, a3, a2, something like that. Maybe rook a1 is a threat immediately to play.
Well, I'm thinking, what about rook f1?
That's a funny, but yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a nice idea, of course, to give a perpetual check, but I think black just plays rook b6. But that's a nice attempt.
well, if you play rook b6, then I think I can play maybe this and try to check like this.
Oh, okay, and what if I play king?
Yeah,
That's
king.
actually interesting, very study-like position.
It sort of is, yeah. I think it's okay because I think you're lost because after rook f7 you have king
Yeah.
h6, and you cannot maintain, or can you actually? Okay, I'm
Now,
gonna
rook
I'm gonna
f7
keep
gives nothing.
trying. Rook
King
f6,
h6,
rook here.
d7.
Oh no, b1 queen. I don't have mate here.
Okay,
Unfortunately, maybe still mate though. No, do we?
no mate.
No. Okay.
But this is a
All
very
right.
picturesque position, isn't it? Right? I mean, queen b1 queen. White cannot play g5 checkmate with a pawn, and he
Oh,
can give a
yes.
check on h7.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, I skipped forward towards the game, but
But in time scramble. But anyway, I think this is a brilliant attempt to try to save the game anyway. Because
yeah.
if White doesn't do this, what else can he can do?
Yeah, I think White is moving closer to a loss here. The king is just gonna move, I think, to well, how exactly are you gonna? Probably you're gonna run like this, yeah? Or
Mhm.
you want to go to a6 and then you're safe from all the checks. Rook f7. I'm expecting king c6 now.
And not king c8, probably.
Yeah, if king c8, then it would be disastrous, of course, with rook e8, mate. Yeah, so king c6. I don't see a way for white to make use of this king. I think we're just going to stick with this game because it looks very interesting and time scramble is a big factor here. Of course, everybody on the left of the board, you can see the current results, how every team is doing so far. So Malaysia doing good with 2-1 versus Syria, and Monaco at least already having one match point with a 3-1 versus Hong Kong. We'll keep those results updated, and for now, we're going to stick with this game. Board one, Ireland versus Albania. Yeah, two countries that are still in the race for promotion to the next division. So, yeah, what would your guess be? Do you think that White is simply going to win here, lose here? White are
I
going to
I
win.
think so, yeah, because the line we were discussing before this attempt to give a perpetual check or double the rooks in the seventh rank, that definitely seemed like the best chance. Here, unless of course I'm mistaken, I just don't see what is White gonna do up against this king c6, king b5, and king a6, and Black is finding the shelter on a6.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is the position already,
This is
right?
the position. So I skipped a few moves ahead. After king c6, white played rook b1. Yeah, what we were discussing was moves like rook e6 to try and maybe get something going, but b1 will be unstoppable after king b5 and let's say rook f5 and then king a6. And there's nothing that white can do to stop these pawns from rolling over the board. Yeah, of course, if the pawn was a bit further ahead, then maybe this would have been okay for white. But eventually, the pawns. This is the current position. The pawns managed to roll over the board, and it's just a win for black. Unfortunately for white, white overpushed. I think definitely that white overpushed there.
But it
And
definitely seemed that he was doing okay until the moment. Of course, Queen f4, we were discussing this briefly, but it felt like it was a mistake. And after c takes on d4, I have this feeling that probably it was around equal. So
yeah,
here, yeah,
I
c takes
think
on
so too.
d4, queen b2. I think black has to take on b2, right? And takes, I think we have to take, probably, and rook f1.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is simply a draw. I don't think that black can do anything else than just grab the perpetual here after rook c2. Yeah,
Well, I
I
cannot
think
imagine
so.
black can play this for the win with something like rook e8. I mean, still, black is down a pawn. I mean, how can he
Yeah,
play
I
this
mean
for the
rook
win?
f4, rook takes g4, maybe
Yeah,
even rook e5 at some point should be also good enough. I mean, white is still a pawn up, by the way.
yeah.
So yeah, I agree. So Frank over pushed against Gillian in this game. And let me see some results. So actually this is Malaysia and all the results are dropping in. Games are starting to finish here, starting to finish. Nice sentence there. Not good English, I think. But anyway, so let's see if I can find some games that are still underway. Let me click a few out. So this is looking winning for the Japanese player, just a piece up, not very interesting. Let's see. What about this? Oh yeah, so some games are have started a bit later. That's why you can see a difference in the time. For example, we just saw a time scramble, but here they are still playing. So Malaysia versus let's say Syria, I think. Yep. So yeah, this is an interesting position. There's still a lot of play left. Who do you think
It's
is
very
better?
unbalanced, isn't it? Because initially I wanted to give some. Uh, I wanted to say that I like White's position more because seemingly White is attacking. But the more I'm looking at this position, it's not so clear how White is actually progressing here.
Yeah, I
Something like
also don't
G6,
see a way.
F6.
This battery is absolutely devastating so far.
Yeah.
I mean, you could play a move like 94 perhaps, but it's only a temporary measure against this thing. For example, after 94, you can just play a move like Bishop D8 to try and create something here. And also there's of course a D5 option sometimes. So yeah, I think I agree. I think it looks scary, these pawns, but the king is so weak on h2, especially because of this battery, that I think the black is actually better here.
Can we push it F6 immediately? Does it work? Because if we don't push F6, I don't think White is actually threatening there anything.
I'm actually considering bishop takes f6 because the rook is protecting the h1 square. What do you think? Does this
Oh,
work?
that's nice. I mean, definitely we have to check it. I mean, my general rule is this: since this is not my game, we can check it.
Yeah, why not? Exactly. So my idea is that the rook is attacked. So if you take like this, then you can take on e1 and you win in exchange. But white has an in-between move like this. But I think that after queen h1 check, king g1, king g3, queen g1, I think you win the rook on f2.
That's
And
nice.
it might actually already be made in a few moves here. So yeah, if f6 doesn't work, then black simply has the initiative here. Okay, so we have a move here. So rook g1 played and black played d5 as an answer to that. I think that black is eyeing something like bishop c5 here.
If White won't play F6 in the next couple of moves, I think he's just I think so. He's lost because Black is going to play Bishop D6, D4. Those bishops are just killing White on these long diagonals. So he
F
has to do something very very quickly.
yeah, f6 on the board. So I guess you can actually ignore that with a move like bishop. Oh, okay, bishop d6 played. Yeah, if f takes at some point. Okay, first of course we have to deal with this check. So probably bishop f4.
Right?
If king
Unless, of course, Rook
h1, then
G3, but Rook G3, I don't think it's going to happen.
yeah, bishop f4 played. I guess d4 looks very good. Well, you do have to account for moves like f takes g7 and queen h6 check.
Well, I think Black is, of course, not going to touch the G pawn because G takes is a suicide. G6, Queen H6 is going to be a checkmate. So this is the occasion when Black can actually use this the pawn on G7, assuming that White is going to take the pawn on G7, use it as a shelter for the king. So that the White pawn on G7, it protects the Black king. It's quite odd, but yeah, here specifically, White has to take the pawn. I'm sorry, Black has to take the pawn on
Yeah, yeah,
G7 because
because there's a rook on f8, and you have to, if you have to take back, because otherwise, of course, the rook will fall on f8. So I think that happened. I'm pretty sure White has to take at some point on g7. So I'm actually wondering. No, no, I'm not wondering. Let's let's see. After d4, I guess White needs to take. I don't see a good square for the knight here. For example, if you move, I'm gonna play a bad move. Let's say knight a2, then you're already lost because of queen c2,
right.
I think. And there's
Let
no
me play
way.
some funny moves as Rook H4. Does it work?
Ooh, rook h4.
Yeah,
Let's
look at
see.
this. I mean, this knight on C3, I think it's dead anyway. So
Yeah,
let's just go to Berserk attack.
let's see. There's been a few moves. Okay, White took on g7, but I think the rook h4 might be winning here. I don't see a
Very,
way
very
to.
sharp. So of course, there's some diagonal check either on D6 or C7, but White just plays Rook G3. Does it
Yeah.
change anything?
How are you going to defend this? You have to play h6, I think.
Maybe that's the correct continuation. Give a check first, because if we can go back a move, instead of giving this check, so the idea is motive. After h6, I want to take on h6, g takes, g6, and sacrifice. Although, I mean, there's still king h8, right? And still, the game
Yeah,
is
maybe
continuing.
black is secretly just okay, and we're throwing mud on the screen. But yeah,
Maybe.
I think that well, White played f takes g7. Let's just focus on the game because the time scramble is coming. Let's see. Oh, okay, a lot has happened. Let's see. So takes queen h6. White is bailed out. White
This
is
is a
gonna.
nice checkmate. Look at this, Roland. Queen h6, g takes, king h6, rook h4 checkmate. I mean, that would be some helpmate, right?
Yep, yep. I think this was a very good choice by White. At, at least a safe one. I think that White cannot lose this position after King h8, Rook takes, Rook e6. This should be better for White. But Rook h4 I don't like. It's very passive here, and Black is gonna play Rook d2 on the next move. So this is the current position. Let's stick to this game. This is actually the last game that I have right here. So let's
Either
see.
way, I mean, in such crazy unbalanced positions, it's very easy to make mistakes. So initially, I had this belief that White was better. Then I started to look at the position more deeply. Now I changed the mind that it is Black who is better. Then after a few moves, suddenly White has a powerful attack, and then something changes. Then Black again is better. Yeah, in these sharp positions, it's very easy to misplay.
Yeah, I agree there. And for example, the king is still on h8 here. So White still has chances, for example, to mate like this at some point. Actually, yeah, knight f5, also good move. Rook e6, check. Time scramble is still going on. We do have 16 seconds for the white player and 27 for the black player. I don't know how to assess this position. It looks like white is the one pushing, but on the other hand, I also don't see a way through for the moment. So
I think it's going to come to the first blunder. Typically, it is like this because somebody is going to make a mistake here. So White would love to checkmate through the back rank weakness, something. No, not a4. I would try something like king e5, rook b4, and or king c5 for that matter. I would
yeah,
choose at any given time White because for Black it's easy to make a mistake here. Rook d4, I think, just wins the game right on the spot. I think so, at least.
I
That's my
think
first
so
impression.
too. Yeah, I think so too. What black needed to play f6, king g8, king f7 at some point to try and get out of this mating net. What do you do against rook d8? I don't think there's any move here.
Nothing. Yeah, I don't see because king g8 unfortunately doesn't work because that's a checkmate simply, and that's it. Yeah, that's a check, king b4, and I think that's going to be a resignation.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, I'm also checking if we have some games. I don't think there is any. So this is actually the last game of this round of round 7 in Pool A. Okay, black is a fighter. It seems just playing every move possible before resignation, actually allowing a mate. That is, I think that's always a very polite thing to do to allow your opponent to mate. That's a sign of respect for me. But yeah, I think Carlson very just doesn't care anymore about things like that. But to me, it's always a sign of respect. But it's a relative thing, I know. Okay,
But you
in
know,
any case, yeah.
there's this belief you can never save any single half a point by resigning early, right? There's
Yeah,
always
I
this little
mean,
chance.
and actually, that's a good point. Actually, also because this is online chess, mouse slips are still possible. Like
Mouse
they're
slips, disconnect. I mean, of course,
disconnect.
we are not wishing anybody to disconnect or do a mouse slip, but you have to fight until then, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Never give up, everybody. So yeah, that is round 7 of Pool A. We are, of course, going to update the standings and the result for you. And while we are doing that, we are going to go on a short break. We'll be back in a few minutes with more coverage of the 2020 Olympiad third division, and we'll be back with Pool A. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back within a few minutes.
That you
And we are back after our small break. So yeah, we are of course still talking about the 2020 Olympiad, and I'm still here of course with Grandmaster Arthur's Nixons. Yeah, so far interesting games of course. Yeah, how are you feeling so far about the tournament?
It was definitely quite an interesting seventh round, and I particularly liked this last game,
Yep.
the attacking game where White was trying to checkmate, and he did manage to checkmate Black in the end, but I felt that was really unbalanced, and yeah, so I look forward to see some of this stuff in the next round and in the ninth round as well.
Yeah, of course. And of course, we are also going to check how the standings are. So here you can see the standings, everybody. We are now currently covering Pool A, and later in the day, we're covering all the other pools. So, yeah, let's focus on Pool A at the moment. Singapore doing well, Albania doing well, and Malaysia. So far, they are in the money, but Monaco yeah, tightly behind the third spot, also with 10 match points, and also still in the race for one of the top spots, just as Ireland is also very close still for one of the top spots here to qualify for the next division. So, yeah, of course, we are now going to move over and see if round 8 is going to start. I'll keep checking if the games have started yet. And yeah, I would like to see what the previous results are as well. Those results are going to be updated soon, but here we can already take a look at what round 8 is, of course. Oh, never mind. Here we got round 7. There are guys working behind the scenes who are doing a great job, by the way. So here you go. The results here of round 7. So the results that we've just been covering. Singapore winning 5-1 to New Zealand. Hong Kong winning 4-2, losing 2-4 against Monaco. Malaysia winning 5-1 against Syria. Albania losing 2-4 to Ireland. That's a big result. Ireland, so they managed to beat one of the top dogs in this division, and they are therefore still in the race for one of the top spots. They're currently fifth in the standings, fifth in the rankings. And so they are still in the race for one of the top 3 spots. A very, very important result for the Ireland team. And to finish every result here, we've got South Korea versus Japan. That was a free draw. So let's see what we can expect in round 8 in Pool A. Let's pull those up. We've got Monaco versus Japan, Singapore versus South Korea, Ireland versus New Zealand, and Syria versus Albania, and Hong Kong versus Malaysia. Is there any match that strikes your fancy?
Oh, that's a good question, of course. I think we want to follow some leaders for
Yep.
the teams who are fighting for the top 3 spots.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I guess we'll just pick somebody randomly from the top teams and see if
Yep.
there's an action going on.
Yeah, of course. No, yeah. As you can see in the standings, everybody, it's. I think today in this 8th round, there are no top matches. Unfortunately, I think it's the top teams playing against the bottom teams so far. But yeah, we'll just cover, of course, just the teams that we can find. I think we'll focus on Albania, Malaysia, Monaco, and Ireland because those 4 teams are really close together. They are all still in contention for the top 3 spots. And yeah, I think maybe Syria is also interesting to follow. Syria versus Albania could be a good one because Syria is number 6 in the standings, as you guys can see. So yeah, let's just focus on that match then. And of course, if we see something interesting, an interesting game, then I'll pull it up and I'll put, of course, Mr. Grandmaster Nixons to the test. Let's see if we can find something interesting there.
So, Roland, since
Okay.
you've been around since the very beginning, what's the approximate level for qualifying to the top 3? I mean, typically there's some kind of expected points to qualify for top 3. How many points is it typically? Have you noticed?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think you at least have to have um about 11 points. I think that was more or less the benchmark, but that I think more is even no, I think actually about 12 or 13. I think that's more or less the benchmark for qualification for the next division. But Yeah, it depends, of course, on every pool. I mean, I think we've had actually people qualifying with only 10 points at some point, but it was a very tight packed pool. So yeah, all I can say is like it depends, and of course every team has to collect as many points as they possibly can. Of course, yeah,
Right.
yeah. All right, so let's take a look. The games have started. Some games are underway. Let me see if I can find the Syria Albania match.
Oh, love this. This is too bad you switched it the way it was. It's
Which
the Ninja, which I play myself in black. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the Ninja. As soon as I see a Ninja, it brings me warm feelings to my heart.
that's this position you were talking about, or maybe
No, I mean there was 2488 player playing for black. I did not see his name. There was a Ninja Indian.
oh,
Maybe we
I'm
don't have to cover
trying
it. It
to
doesn't
find
matter.
it. I can't find it
I
anymore.
just saw it. It's just Ninja, great.
I always wanted to. Yeah, if you see something nice, then let me know. Then I'll pull it up.
Okay. But you can choose, of course. I'll just follow.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to find the Albanian match. So this is Ireland, New Zealand. Actually, we can stick to this one as well. Ireland and New Zealand close together in the standings as well. I think we've got the youth board right now. So I think Daniel Gong is the youth player here. And actually, something that I also have to mention, the ratings that you see on the board right now are actually not their official FIDE ratings. Those are the Chess.com ratings. So you have to take those ratings with a grain of salt. As you can see, they are both FIDE masters, so they are well matched together. Yeah, based on strength, I would say. Who do you think is better in pie in this position?
But something I think has slightly, unless of course White is going to play Queen d5. Okay, if Queen d5 is going to happen, then he's fine. But I wanted to say my first impression that something has gone wrong for White because Black was threatening to play a move before Queen e2. Black was threatening to play b5, knight c6, either take the pawn on a2 or take the pawn on e5. So I wasn't really sure what White is actually threatening here. But okay, Queen e4. It comes
Yeah,
together with the positional threat to play queen d5, to trade these queens and aim for a space advantage. So if White manages to do this, then he is probably just fine. But my
yeah,
first impression was like this. I mean, I was thinking, what is going on here? Because Black just looked almost like bear. Yeah, but
yeah,
okay, here queen d5 is, I think, just fine.
yeah. I agree there. And if you exchange them, then you have got this pawn blocking the bishop on g7, and after a move, actually you also have to protect this guy on c5. So let's say a move like b6, and let's say rook hd1, I suppose, yeah, and then yeah, White is enjoying a slight space advantage. I don't think much is going on because Black also doesn't really have any weaknesses, but this is a nice uh, position that White can push. Yeah, maybe start playing something like a3 and b4.
I was thinking about a4 more to fix this pawn, this knight on c4. Otherwise, if White is gonna let out b6, b5, and e6, he might lose the pawn on e5.
Yeah,
So
that's
maybe
true.
this a3, b4, like you said. But I was more looking at a4 myself. But the
Yeah,
question is, can this actually happen?
yeah. After a4, my worries was like, how is White going to continue after a4? But I guess your plan is maybe at some point to play a5 and try to undermine this pawn chain.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's the classical idea with the knight on c4 and the pawn on c3, limiting the black knight's activities on the c6. White typically plays a4, and yeah, and the king is very close to action should the position, let's say, switch to some kind of an endgame. For example, let's say we trade both rooks through the d file, something like, yeah, was it like in mid? It was black move, right? Okay,
Yeah,
and now the idea was the king is very close to the action at the queen side, so the white king can join the action
yeah,
much more quickly than the black king.
yeah. The Black King is stuck on g8. It has a longer way to go to get into the action, while White is already very close to the queen side. I agree. So, for example, if we play this out a little bit, let's make some moves. Then after this, Well, white has got some initiative on the queen side. It's not that much because the king is still quite close, I believe, and knight c6 is a good defender, but a4, a5 looks pretty devastating. And this construction, like you said, is very dangerous for black. Yeah, yeah. So I
That's
agree.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is looking.
The only thing I'm just not sure which is the right way. I mean, should we push the king to b5 and then play a4 or play a4 right away and then try to activate the king? But then again, the pawn on a4 might not allow for the white king to advance forward. So it's not really that simple.
Yeah, exactly. You have to, if the king, if you want to move the king towards b5, then it's probably better not to play a4 just yet. Yeah.
Right.
So it depends. Indeed, I agree. Okay, so we are still in this position. Let's see what happened. Okay, so it happened rook d8 and now rook d7, also a very logical move. But after rook d7, b5 is becoming really one of the potential ideas here, I think. Takes b5, I guess.
But there is this very nice intermezzo, rook c7. Yes,
Yeah,
very important.
the knight cannot move anywhere. I mean, you don't want to go back because then, let's say, the knight moves here. Black is going to lose at least one pawn here. So this is looking very good.
White looks totally in the driver's seat. So what was misplayed here? Is this the position, right?
I think that this is currently the position. Rook c8 played, and I think black is trying to get king f8, king e8 on the board.
But definitely white is much better. I mean, he has to play a4 to fix this knight on c4 to stop b6, b5 from happening. Okay, that's probably excluding our brave king's march to the queen side. And if black is going to play something like king f8, king e8 to bring the king closer, we're just going to play rook b7. And how is black going to progress here? It's very
King
difficult.
f8 on the board.
Although there's rook b8. Maybe. No, rook b8 is rook c7. So, for example, can you, Roland, suggest me a way for black to untie this position? Because I'm not seeing anything.
Maybe rook d8, rook d7. But
Rook
after
d8 is
d8,
rook
you have
c7. Yeah, it's very difficult.
Well, are you
And white
actually
is going.
threatening to take here? Wait, I've got an idea. Okay, this is probably going to be crazy, but I'm just going to try. Rook b8.
I see your point. That's nice.
King d8, king takes, and king d7. Rook is trapped. Maybe this works. I don't know. It looks
And
very
now
good.
let the viewers to find the best move for white, right?
Well, after knight f5, I'm not even gonna take. I'm just gonna say like, okay, yeah.
Oh, you're not even gonna take it? Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, knight f5 is a beautiful
time in the world. I don't think that the rook can move anywhere. So, yeah, but of course, white is still in the driver's seat here. B takes, rook takes, c5. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think that white is having a very nice positional construction here. So let's see what happened in the game. King f8, rook b7 already played. Okay, but yeah, I think maybe this is a bit premature, but on the other hand, it's king e8 is probably the only move here, right?
Yeah, maybe he felt that he needs to play rook b7 right away to stop any early a6, b5 ideas. There might be some occasion when black would try to play a6 and presumably the rook is on c8, not under attack, and he can recapture the pawn on e5. So maybe that was his idea, but I don't see how to make it work.
I don't see how to make that work. Yeah, okay, rook b7. Actually, let me see if we can find some Albania games. That's the match that I'm really interested in. Let's see if I can. Yeah, Albania, Syria. I think this is a women's board or a youth board. Let's see what's going on here. What do you think?
Well, black is just fine, probably already slightly better.
Yeah.
Completely symmetrical position, and I have a feeling it's going to end up for black having two bishop advantage somehow, and then black is going to push. So maybe like this, or play f3 and black is going to take on d2. I mean, I don't know what is more accurate, and somehow black is better. The question is it enough? I mean, probably it's way too early to tell this, but again, black is in the driver's seat.
I think so too. Yeah, I've played positions, symmetrical positions like this as well. And actually, it's the pawn on b5 that's actually, and the queen b6 construction that's very annoying for white because black has a lot of space on the queen side like this, while white is struggling to get some space for the pieces herself in this case. So yeah, the bishop on d2, for example, is with this 94 move just, yeah, it's a very passive bishop on d2. It's also the rook on e1 is stuck there. You would ideally want it on c1, for example. And bishop c1 is, of course, probably not a good move because you lose a pawn like this. But yeah, I think black is doing very well. I mean, one idea that comes to mind is grabbing the bishop pair and then maybe start pushing the knight back with g6 and e5,
It
perhaps.
was some Meran variation, right? I'm checking the opening, the moves. Probably something was misplayed. Yeah, so this is the classical idea, of course. Uh, Black is taking on c4 as soon as the bishop has developed to d3. And I'm not a big expert here. I think there were some ideas for white to sacrifice this pawn on d4. I think a6. I think there was this common idea, not definitely not bishop d2. I think there was something like e4, e5, and sack the pawn on d4. But then again, maybe you know it better than me because I don't play
I
this for white.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, e4. I don't think it works right now, but there were lines where white played e4, and then if you take, you're gonna push with e5, grabbing some space and sacrificing the pawn on d4 temporarily. Yeah, I'm not a big expert on the Miran as well, but I think that white misplayed indeed because after rook a d1, for example, I think it would be better to play rook f d1 and then play rook a c1, because if you take a look at the current position, then the rook on e1 is absolutely not doing anything here. So it would
Right.
much rather be on c1, and then you, for example, also have the option to play bishop e1 with with still a not so comfortable position, but at least the bishop is safe from exchanges, you know.
Yeah,
But
bishop position the bishop on e4. I know it's quite awkward, but typically, of course, the rook has to be on d1 on c1, and the idea to play bishop on e1, the sole idea is to preserve the bishop because sometime sooner or later the knight on e4 is going to retreat, and then the bishop is going to spring to life. So that's at least the idea. And yeah, and here black can at least can take on d2. So if I have a choice to take on d2 or take on c3, I take the bishop because there's this general rule that in open any single position sooner or later should open. But of course, then knight d2, we have to calculate what's going to happen after knight c5. But I don't think that's nothing, right? Knight b1 and yeah,
I'm
it's
also
not possible.
thinking
Knight
maybe
b1,
knight
knight c3,
f3.
or knight f3. Now knight b1 just wins a piece on the spot. It
Yeah,
doesn't work.
exactly. Knight takes b7, knight takes c3, all these in between moves, and then eventually black will be a piece up. Yeah. So knight takes d2, I totally agree there. That was actually very instructive. Like every position is going to open up at some point, and that is why having the bishop pair, collecting the bishop pair early on is usually a very good idea in openings. Yeah. So knight b3. Attacking
Yeah, Roland,
here.
do you agree about this? I'm sorry, I'm slightly diverting off topic here, but
Okay. No, that's fine.
I always am forgetting who was the original guy who said this quote that supposedly in Moscow, I think so, at least somebody told me this. They're teaching the kids that the bishop actually costs not 3 points, or how do you call it, 3 euros, 3 watermelons, whatever you use the currency.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but 3.5. And I've been keeping to this approach ever since, and that's what I'm also trying to teach to my students. I'm also a chess coach myself of a 10 years experience,
Hmm.
and I've been teaching that don't give away the bishops for no good reason, because in 90, I don't know, okay, I'm gonna guess the number, let's say 95% of the games, your position is gonna open and the bishop is gonna be stronger than the knight.
Very often, yeah, yeah. I haven't learned that that was actually a coaching approach. That this is new for me actually.
Okay.
But yeah, but I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, in a lot of positions, even for example, in good knight versus bad bishop endings, the bishop is doing more than enough to keep the position under control. So I see where you're coming from, but then again, there are games where the knights are absolutely beasts. For example, when a knight is being an octopus on a d6 square or an e6 square. So yeah, I can see where it's coming from, but on the other hand, I'm not exactly sure if it's 100% true. But it's interesting to think of that. But like for example, would a queen then not be worth 9 points, but would it then be maybe 8 points? You know, because sometimes a bishop and a rook are like are better than a queen. It's in certain
Of course,
variations.
it's not really that simple, but I really like this because a lot of students they really love to exchange the bishops for the knights for no reason whatsoever. So this is how
Yeah.
I try to remind them.
Yeah, that's true, and then in that way you can show them the importance of what of the bishops, of course, in the long run, and also in the opening, I guess. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, this was an interesting. I didn't know about that, so thanks for telling me.
But I might
And
have misquoted who originally said it. I mean, I somebody said it. It was from Moscow School Chess, whatever. But okay, been a
I
long time.
think it was well. I have no idea, obviously, but yeah, it might very well be. I mean, the Russian schools are one of the
Last
best in
van
the world.
terugkeren
So
branden.
yeah,
Yeah.
it might very well be. All right, so enough about this position. I think that White managed to save the at least one the bishops, or at least they'll get exchange for other bishops. So I think that this position is more or less evening out. I would say. I think Black's still a little bit better, but let's move on to a more exciting game, if I can find one. This one looks interesting. I don't know
Oh,
what this
what
is.
is that?
This is totally different.
That's something new. You get to leave
C4.
some credit for Black for pushing this C4, but I like this move.
Does it work though?
That's another question. But I like this.
Yeah, so C4, I think we're looking at the youth board. So that means the sixth board of this match, Albania versus Syria. And yeah, by the way, everyone, just a reminder, on the left, you can see of course, the results. We are keeping the results updated as best as we can. So you can see how the other matches are going. I would like to focus on Syria, Albania, but of course, if we can find something interesting, then I'll pull it up. And yeah, there you
What did
go.
we just talk about the knights and the bishops? Because I just noticed this bishop d4. I was actually thinking about playing knight d4 here.
I think knight d4 wins. It doesn't win material because black can still take a pawn. But the idea is that knight d4 attacks the bishop here, and it protects the e3 knight. So, for example, if you take like this, then the queen is under attack, and next move you can take the pawn if the queen.
Or e4 as well is also a threat there.
Or e4. That's probably even better. Yeah. All right, so yeah, knight d4, I agree. And after c takes, I suppose c takes. I think while black is not losing by any chance, but white should be better because of the developmental lead here. So
well, maybe there was some funny idea to push for black c4, c3, but I don't think so really. I mean, knight c3, knight c or knight d4 like this. I've thought about knight c3. Yeah, but that's it is bishop c3. There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, I think c3 simply doesn't work. And after knight takes, you have knight takes d5. Okay, you are giving up the bishop pair. But
here I'm quite happy to do this because simply that's a free pawn.
That's a free pawn.
My favorite approach. Take a pawn, think later.
Take a pawn and then think later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you have just a tremendous developmental lead here with white, so this should be very good. Yeah, so what happened in the game? In the game happened bishop d4, takes. Okay, now after taking. Okay, black does not have the bishop pair anymore, but still this bishop in the long run could be very good, especially with this b3 move. This diagonal looks pretty juicy for the bishop.
It still feels okay for white, but it could have been more. I have this feeling. So c5, c4, as beautiful and beautiful looking move it was, it probably wasn't really that good. But then again, what is the queen doing on b6? So black sort of tries to justify his queen placement on b6. So sometimes it works like this. You're creating a little problem, like position the queen on b6, and then you try to solve it. Well, of course, a better approach is not to create a problem in the first place, right? So that you don't have to solve it later.
Exactly. Yeah, it would have been better not to play the queen here, but just play a move like, well, there are a lot of problems here, actually. Knight d5. Knight d5 is probably a mistake here.
Probably, yeah. I mean, this
Probably
whole
just
whole sequence of knight e5 and c4 feels well interesting. I mean, I agree, it's interesting.
yeah. It's an interesting. This is what's this? What's the setup called again? This d3. I think it's just a bird setup.
It's
Yeah,
some
with
Jobava's opening. I think he would approve. Yeah,
yeah one
b3
b3.
and everything after that is Jobava's line. b3 a5. Do you remember this famous game Badur Jobava played against Shanuna Shulskis in the previous Olympiad on the board, the Olympiad in Batumi, I think so. There was quite a famous game, not c5 but a5, the first.
Oh yeah. I like a5. I've
That
actually
was
played
quite
it
something.
myself. Yeah, it's like this is a move that's pretty hard to counter. Like if you play bishop b2, a4, if you play knight c3, then a3 is an idea, and you always have a takes b3 idea. So
Right.
very often, an instant reply for white players is after a5 just to play a3. Yeah, because it's such a move that can annoy the hell out of a white player. But okay, this
Yeah.
should not be good. I think there's a refutation for this, but in general, I think it's a nice yeah. How do you say?
It's
It's
like
like
I'm not afraid.
yeah, I'm
Something
not
like sending a direct message.
exactly. This is sending a message to your opponent, like be free. All right, I'm gonna target you. That's a weakness. I'm going to
Okay.
going to attack that head on. Yeah. All right, but yeah, let's move on to another position. So I've got this one for you. This is Malaysia versus Hong Kong. So this is the first board, 94, threatening knight f6, I believe.
Right. It seems some sort of a Benoni. Yeah, I think it was a Benoni. Something was misplayed for black because white seems to be better. But typically in Benoni, white is better. So black is aiming for some very
Well,
sharp game.
if Gashimov was alive, he would totally disagree with you there.
I mean, that's amazing, right? Because Vogel Gashimov was pretty much the only player at the top level who was playing the modern Benoni at the highest level. It's unbelievable. It's such a sharp opening, supposedly half correct, and yet he was still playing with excellent results. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that was, of
I
course, a
mean,
big loss for the chess community.
yes, of course, a big loss. Yeah, we would have loved to see him, of course, on the top level, but unfortunately, yeah, it was yeah, misfortune struck, of course, there. All right, but let's see how this bishop e5. That's an interesting move. I think it
But it at
saves
least drops a pawn, I think, so at least.
at
Although
least
the pawn on
drops.
b2 is.
Oh, how does it drop a pawn, by the way?
No, I mean, I was thinking about even immediate knight takes on c5. But
Oh, that's true. That's true.
yeah,
Yeah, you do have bishop takes b2 then. Okay,
but
the
this
idea
looks
of knight takes e5 is that the bishop on
this
e5.
looks so dangerous for black. I mean, absolutely white is better. I just don't know to what extent and what might be the best continuation. But
I'm
even
even
knight takes on e5 is better for white because of the strong passer on the deep pawn. Yeah, f4 maybe even f5. There's a possibility to start an attack. Queen c3 is a possibility to do some damage with knight f6 incoming.
yeah,
Very
I
very
agree.
unpleasant.
I think the rook also has a trouble finding a good square. If you go back to e8 or e7, then
Right.
knight f6 is
Yeah,
a big
f4
idea.
and knight f6 is a very big threat. So how do you counter actually?
I
Rook
think maybe
f5.
rook f5, but the rook cook is a target now for trapping. I mean, you could maybe even play a move like queen f3 at some point, and
Or
then just
maybe
play
okay,
g4
maybe even
next turn.
right away g4, but that I don't think we have to do this.
Yeah,
G4 rook
this might be a
takes.
little bit dangerous, yeah, because you are sacrificing a pawn, but still
But
after a move like queen g3, and indeed, how are you going to defend this rook?
I was thinking about queen e3. That was my idea to provoke you to play g5 and play knight g3, knight h5, queen e8. I don't
Well,
know. I don't know. It looks very
okay,
scary
well,
stuff.
yeah, this is looking brilliant for white. Yeah, so looking good for, let's see, the Hong Kong team there. Bishop e5 on the board, no moves being played, but we're closing in on the time trouble. I'm trying to find once again an interesting Albanian position. This might be an interesting endgame. I think that this is Let's see. This might be the youth board. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. What do you think? Is black better? Black's on exchange up, but white has everything more or less under control, I think.
Well, in my grandmaster's opinion, white has an exchange for a pawn.
In your grandmaster opinion, that's
Yeah,
true.
that requires to be a grandmaster. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems that white is completely fine. He can even repeat the position with bishop f4, rook d7, and bishop e3. How white is actually risking here anything?
Yeah, I
It might
agree
just be
there.
an equal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pawn indeed. I mean, if you can play rook c5, then black might have good chances, but bishop e3, bishop f4 saves the day. How are you going to play this one?
Unless,
Yeah, I
of
mean,
course, you are playing a4, you are giving up this pawn on b6, but that looks very risky. Rook b7 and the d pawn is going to march, maybe even right away.
you can even play it immediately,
Yeah,
just
right away,
seven.
exactly.
I
So
think
what
that
black
you're
gonna do
right.
this?
I think that black has to take a draw here of rook d6.
But the question is, white gonna accept it? Although, I mean, maybe there's nothing there for white because black could play a4, a3, try to activate his rook,
Yeah.
and exchange the a pawn for the c pawn. So maybe it's just equal. Or maybe white doesn't have to force a draw because in terms of this so-called Russian school, again, I hope I'm not misinterpreting something. Maybe I just remember it wrongly, but on the board, it's actually it's about equal. I mean, it's material equality. It's if this bishop is 3.5 and the pawn for the exchange, that's about 4.5. We have a passed pawn that also gives some extra evaluation for the position. So it's about equal. So why should actually white try to force a draw? I mean, he can, but we can just play it like g4, king g3, something. I mean, maybe h4, king g3, king f4.
Well, but then if rooks are on open files, then maybe they are also worth half a point more, you know? So if you can get a4, a3.
That's a very valid point, of course. Yeah. So
But I
half
like this
half guessing here.
discussion. Yeah, I mean, you could have this discussion for hours, I think, and maybe
Right.
that's how computers are getting their algorithms. You know, like how they evaluate positions. Like a rook on the open file is worth half a point more or something, or like you said, a bishop in an open position is worth also half a point more. Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. Yeah, chat, let us know what you think. Throw some comments in there, of course.
Yeah. Who would you choose actually here, white or black? I mean, I already said pretty much. I would choose probably white because I can already force a draw if I want. But then again, I might not have anything better here.
I think I would choose either color because it's going to be a draw.
Guys, I read in the chat I'm not raised in Soviet Union, I'm raised in Latvia. Latvia was part of Soviet Union, but in 1990 we regained our independence, so I'm in Latvia. I'm a Latvian guy.
By the way, a draw agreed here. So yeah, we can just move on to the next game. We've got an interesting inval. Oh yeah, we are still here. By the way, what happened here? Okay, so that complicated 1b3 Obava position turned out to be a good knight versus a good bishop ending.
Okay, but
Yeah.
how did this happen? Okay, but it seems what is in such a big time trouble there? 20 seconds. I mean,
Yeah,
wow.
you're right. Well, who do you think is better here?
Well, that's of course a valid question, but Rook d5 has to be played, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't think that black is really, or maybe knight c3, knight e4. If that is gonna income, then definitely white is not even better. He's just pushing for the win and checkmate.
Black is
But
rook
if
e8.
black manages exactly with the rook e8 to defend this, maybe he can just, yeah,
But
hope
knight
to.
this one, I was wondering if knight c7 was a good move with the idea that, for example, after rook a c8, you have rook d7 and then knight
That's
b6.
a strong, yeah, that's a strong idea.
But I think you've got rook 88 here. And there's not really a way for white to get a check going. I think black is fine. I think I would pick black here. I don't know. The king is also okay placed on f6 where it's attacking the f5 pawn.
Well,
So if
definitely
black
because of the
can,
time management. And black has 6 minutes. Sorry, 5.5, and white is down on the last 3 seconds. Look at this. I mean, unbelievable.
Yes, yeah.
So
I'm
unfortunate for
also
white.
I'm always checking the internet connection bars. So black has 3 bars. That's pretty safe actually. And then you've got white also with 4 bars. Okay. So yeah, no internet connection problems. Probably maybe black white is okay by the way because you always have knight d6 ideas to at least get some counterplay against the f7 pawn or the b7 pawn. Rook e7 is a very solid move, by the way. I think rook h e8. I would definitely pick black here. I think black
Black is
is
taking over, right?
yeah, and this bishop is way stronger than the knight on b5. I
Here we
think
go. Yeah, black takes over. He attacks the pawn on b3. I was actually thinking about, can I rearrange my pieces, knight d6, knight c4, somehow try to liquidate this endgame? Because let's imagine this. I'm playing this position from white's perspective, and I'm so low on time. So I'm thinking definitely I'm not playing for the win here. I have to be very accurate. So I try to liquidate position into some kind of a drawn endgame. For example, I could try to exchange the knight for the bishop, let's say swap these pawns, A pawn for the B pawn, and if necessary, I can go for the rook endgame, 2 pawns versus 3 at the king side, which should be a draw. But of course, time management is a big issue here for white.
I agree. Yeah, that is why a move like 96 is a good one because then you can liquidate into such an ending. Okay, I have a no, I have not. I was trying to find something funny, but this is
No, no, no,
dangerous.
no. This is a blunder. Rook d1, bishop g1, resign.
Are you sure
A
that's
rook
really
e1. That's a checkmate, right?
one? Oh, that's check. Yeah, that's checkmate. Rook e1, king h2, bishop
This,
g1.
this is the point. I mean, this is the point I was saying. I mean, white had to understand what he is doing here because with so little time, it's very easy to blunder things.
He missed it. Rook
He missed it.
b1 played. Rook
Unbelievable. I mean,
b1 played. And now after king h2, there's no mate. The king can run still to g3.
but maybe this is still winning. Somebody is going to get checkmated here.
Yeah. Rook e3 and then rook b4. It's winning though. King f4. Oh, king f4 is made in 1, by the way. Rook f1.
That's nice. Yeah, maybe
Rook
it's still
king
winning.
h4. Rook b4. Rook
G4 and bishop f2.
e4.
Rook d4. That drops a piece, right? Takes, and rook.
Yeah, takes and rook e4. Okay, so black is just winning. It's not about mate. It's about material in the end. Then.
Okay, but I think that checkmate was far more simple. Bishop g1,
Yeah.
bishop f2, and bishop g3.
Mate in 2 is always better than mate in 15 or 50 or something. But hey, you can have some more fun. I don't know. So rook b3, king, rook e3 needs to be played. Let's see if that's on the board. Yeah, that's on the board. King h4, rook b4. Okay, this is mate in 2. Yeah, and
Nice.
rook h4 resit.
I really love such games and such positions when every single piece contributes something to make this mating attack. So here, essentially, black couldn't try to checkmate white if he didn't have the king on f6, if he didn't have those pawns on f7, g7. So it usually brings me really good emotions that every single piece is joining to produce a mastery.
Oh, yep. And moving on towards another game. Let's see if I can find. Okay, white one here. Yeah, the results are dropping in, everybody. I am just trying to find interesting positions. And this was actually we already looked at this game before, and there have been some developments. For example, this pawn on e4, black is a pawn up, actually.
It wasn't there. It wasn't there before.
It wasn't there. It was here, and now it's here.
Okay.
Oops, something happened there. It's black to move, actually. What about rook fd8?
Yeah, that ends the game, I think. If white actually sees this,
It's
unless
black
of course there is a cage for the queen. What? No, not 98. This is in the game, right?
Knight d8 was played in the game, yeah. But I was thinking that black could win material after rook fd8.
That seems like a win to me. But I think the problem is typically how sometimes players think. They're more concerned about the incoming threat. So here, white previously I would assume he played rook e3. But the threat to play rook g3 target the queen. So he's thinking, I mean, I have to defend the queen. And queen h5, maybe he's considered some kind of a dangerous for the black queen. So this is why he's thinking, I mean, I have to free some squares for the queen, so he's considering knight e8. But then again, we are more trained in tactics, Roland and me, so we immediately spot these ideas as rook d8. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And all talking about tactics, after rook g3, queen f7, you actually lose the pawn on f5 already. So knight d8 is not a good move here. I think the queen still has to go to h5, and that would mean that the knight d8 move is actually not that useful here.
But this could be actually quite exciting game because both of the opponents are down on the last minute.
Yeah.
And I still stand to what I believe, that typically it always comes down to the blunder. I mean, the question is who is going to blunder? Because when you are playing on so long time, it is bound to make many mistakes. It dropped the piece.
Is this a blunder? I'm not sure. What happens after knight
I
takes
jinxed it, right? Yeah,
knight
I
takes
asked for a
b4,
blunder.
takes f5, but then maybe you have some sort of in-between move somewhere. Okay, but not played. Knight e7 played. Bishop takes e7.
Now white is taking over. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Rook takes f5. Queen has to go here. The queen's move is being pushed off the board almost. So queen h4, rook f7 looks winning to me.
Yeah.
Still rook f7 looks winning.
Rook f7, bishop f6, and even take on g7. That's a checkmate right away.
Yeah.
What a turnaround.
Can you somehow... No, I don't see a defense. I think white is at least losing a piece, but probably...
I think he could just try to checkmate right away. I mean, maybe there's bishop on e7. Of course, it's nice to have it.
Well,
but do you know this joke, Roland, about can you when you have a checkmate in 4, or you can take the rook, what should you do?
Take the rook, I would say, because
of course, there might be no checkmate.
Calculate, and with going for the mate in 4, you have to calculate correctly, so there's a bigger mistake margin.
So there just might be no checkmate, but there's always the rook, right?
Yeah, exactly. You will, for the rest of the game, you will be a rook up. Yeah. Okay, but white is doing the mate approach here, not taking the piece so far, but instead just going for the mate. It might work, but it involves a risk here. Rook g6 looks winning, by the way, and queen h7.
Yeah, but rook g6 is quite a difficult move to pick up, because he also has the knight under attack. And again, if he's thinking about my knight is under attack, and he has to switch his mindset towards that, protecting the knight or trying to checkmate, it might be not so easy.
Rook takes e7 played. Queen takes d4, rook takes g7.
Oh, but is that a good choice? I don't like it.
Well, queen takes would have been better, I think, right? Well, okay, queen takes c8. White is going to be a lot of material up. It seems, well, a lot, actually.
Are you sure? Where's the material?
Queen f5, king goes, rook takes, and queen e5. Is that a winning pawn ending?
Yeah, but black also has this protected pawn at the queen side, b4, a5, a4. Are you sure? I'm not so sure if he could do this.
4 pawns versus 4 there, yeah. So white misplayed this.
Absolutely. I think that rook g6, which you showed before, that was the killing move. Rook h6 was incoming. So this is, I'm not so sure who is actually playing for the win here, because okay, he can take the pawn on a6,
e3?
But the e3 pawn, I mean, black is playing for the win here.
Yeah, wow. I think so. A lot of turnarounds in this game. It was black who was better, then suddenly white with a potential mate in a few moves, but then yeah, now black is playing for a win. But actually, I think that is going to be a draw.
No, but king g6, king f5 felt like a win to me, no? Unless I'm king e4 and this. Okay.
Let's take a look.
That felt like a winning to me.
King f5.
And king f5.
I don't see any good checks here, because you can always take this pawn on f4, right. And there's always this e2, e1 potential here. Well, but with these queen endings, it's very hard to run out of the checks, and I mean sometimes you could also blunder something if you're not careful. So,
but I mean you can understand white. I mean black, because for example g2, g4 might look scary, especially when you're playing in time trouble. King e4, maybe there's some checkmate, maybe there's some helpmate. I mean you never know. You have to be really careful here. So black decided, okay, draw is good.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was trying to find some games that are still going on. Let me see. There, as far as I can see, there are 2 games going on. Okay, one game, scratch that. Let's see. So this one, uh, let's see. Winning for black, it seems, yeah. I don't see a mate yet, but it should be. Well, actually, knight takes e2 simply.
Who's the move here? Yeah, it's even
Like to
92,
move.
right?
Yeah, knight takes e2 should win more than enough material back. I don't see. I would like. I'm always a little bit like, there should be a mate. Let's find a mate, even if it's not necessary. This is
So
like the rook or mate in four question you just.
would you sit here actually in a game and let's say there's supposed to be like mating tree? Would you actually look for it, or you just exchange everything and just claim a win in the pawn endgame with 4 extra pawns?
In a game, I would not look for it.
Probably, huh?
I would just take it and say like, okay, I'm just gonna take it easy, take my time. Why not? It's resigning. It's resign time anyway for white. So, but
Right.
I'm just playing recreational, then I'm gonna do like, yeah, let's find this. Let's find this. Let's see if we
Okay.
can find a mating free.
Okay, can we find a mate here?
Yeah, shall we do it? Shall we
Yeah,
try to
sure,
find?
sure. I think we still have a couple of minutes.
Hmm. Don't see anything though. Yeah, think
We're-
along, everybody. Let's find a mate here. Black.
Of course,
We
we
need
don't
some
have to. We
help.
can just take an into
Yeah,
and
knight.
make.
Okay, knight takes e2 is of course the boring way to play here, but yeah,
But that's the
sometimes you have to
practical
be
way.
practical for your team, of course. Just exchange everything. How many pawns are you up? 5. Yeah, it's the right strategy, but I couldn't find a mate, by the way. Did you see one?
Can we go back? Let's have a look at it. Maybe there's some funny ideas to explore. Knight h3 doesn't work, right? I would love to checkmate on g1. The rook takes an h2. There is no checkmate. Yeah,
No,
it
so
doesn't
rook
work.
takes h2, queen g1 is not a mate because you can run to e2. Hmm.
Maybe there is just no checkmate.
Maybe there just isn't.
Queen h3, king g1. In that position as well, there's no way to.
No, I also don't see anything. Ah, that's
Yeah, there's
interesting.
nothing probably. I mean,
Or
maybe there is
maybe
still
the
some
chat
room for
found
a
something.
quiet move because white is not uh, threatening to immediately checkmate us on the last rank. So some quiet move as rook h5 maybe, but of course, I mean this is ridiculous. I mean, why would we want to do this?
Why would you want to do this? You're in a winning position and then you're
Right.
taking some risk. Well, actually, this might be a good move because, for example, if you play something like a4, I'm just doing something bad, but queen, well, actually, after queen h3, you can simply go king f2, and
Maybe there's still
yeah,
no checkmate. Ah, knight d3 though. Knight d3 though might be a threat somewhere.
king f2, knight d3. Okay, but we're talking nonsense because
Okay,
a4 is a
this is
bad
nonsense.
move. You could play rook d1 instead, and then things are going to be much harder, obviously.
Right.
Okay, let's see what happened. This is the last game going on, everybody. After that, we are, of course, going to update the standings for everyone and the results. As you can see on the left, this is all the results that we have in right now. Only one game left with Syria versus Albania. And if the black player wins, that means it will be a tie. Then it will be 3-3, actually. So this is actually an important game still in the match. Yeah, and other results are already in. As you can see, 4-2 Japan Monaco. That's actually a big upset. Monaco was still in the race for the top 3 spots, but with this loss, they are going to have a hard time with the last round. Singapore winning against South Korea, they more or less qualified. Ireland winning against New Zealand. Ireland playing very well, still in contention. Syria, Albania will be a 3-3 tie if there's no stalemate. And Hong Kong, Malaysia is 4-2 for Hong Kong. Also an upset because Malaysia was still playing for one of the top spots. So actually, this round was action packed. There was a lot of upsets here. Monaco losing to Japan, Malaysia losing to Hong Kong, and Syria keeping Albania to a tie. So only Singapore and Ireland doing a very good job in the standings here.
Yeah, Singapore, I think they already qualified, right, for the next division.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so that means there are 2 open spots yet. What are
Yep.
the standings there? Yeah.
And with that, we have this was round 8 of Pool A, actually. So, yeah, wow, this was exciting. All right, in any case, this was it for, like I said, round 8 of Pool A. And we will be back shortly because, yeah, we sometimes have to take a break. And we need, of course, that some time for the people behind the scenes to get the standings correct and the results, of course, as well. So, guys, don't go anywhere. Stretch your legs, grab some popcorn, sit
Make
back.
push-ups.
Like fluff up your pillow so that you will be more comfortable afterwards because we'll be back after a few minutes. So, yeah, don't go anywhere.
See you soon.
And we're back, everyone. And yeah, welcome back to another 2020 Olympiad, of course, broadcast. I'm here still with Grandmaster Arthur Nixons, a legendary streamer, by the way. I just heard that he's planning to do a 24-hour stream at some point. So
What?
yeah, you didn't expect that one, did you?
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, tell us a little bit about your channel. I mean, you're streaming also, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, of course, for the nice words, Roland. I started to stream already quite some months ago, so I cannot really brand it as a new streamer. So I have a channel. So if you have the time, please check it out. I have quite a number of unique shows, and some of them are quite popular, at least between the audience who are finishing them. I do the puzzles every Wednesday, weekly puzzle fix. Then there's on Mondays my boot camp, my training camp, and all of that. So all of that obviously is free as for every Twitch channel, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's always good to find new streamers, of course. So everybody, I want well, new streamer, you've been doing it for a few months already, but everybody, follow his channel. You can see his channel always during the broadcast, under the names, under our bars right there. So if you give him a follow, please do. Please give him a
Thank you.
follow. Be exciting. I'm pretty sure. All right, so let's move on. We still have one round to go in Pool A, and also during the round 9 of Pool A, Pool B is going to start with round 7. We are not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on Pool A to see who will be the final, who will be the top 3 players of the pool, of course. But first, let's take a look at the results of Pool 8, of round 8 of Pool A. And yeah, as you guys can see, it's fully updated. So once again, Japan beating Monaco, a big upset. Monaco having problems with the qualification, while it was one of the rating favorites. Singapore, the first one to qualify actually with this result, 4.5, 1.5 beat down against South Korea. Ireland still looking strong, 6-0 beat down against New Zealand. Syria, Albania, 3-3 tie, and Hong Kong beating Malaysia 4-2. A big upset round, a lot of upsets. So let's take a look at what that means for the standings here. So, like I said, Singapore, the only one qualified so far, and still 4 countries in the race for a top 3 spot. We've got Ireland, second place currently with 11 match points. Albania also with 11 match points, but Malaysia and Monaco still in the race with 10 match points there. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what the last round will bring. Let's see what the final matches will be in round 9 of Pool A. We've got a nice clash between Malaysia and Monaco, two
Wow.
countries that are still in the race. So that would be absolutely the one to follow. Otherwise, of course, Albania playing against Hong Kong, also still in the race, and Ireland playing against South Korea. Those are the matches that we are going to keep in mind there. And of course, I also should click the old games away. Otherwise, of course, the old games from round 8 we're not going to follow anymore.
They're
But
history
yeah,
already.
what does your gut say? Who do you think will qualify? Like your intuition. Let's call it
Singapore?
grandmaster intuition.
Singapore probably will qualify, right?
Ah, good one.
I mean, I don't know. Apart from that, it's very difficult to tell because, as you saw, there are some really amazing turn of events in the games, and quite many turnarounds. So everything is decided in the time trouble, how well each player copes with the time management and with his nerves. So this is it. This is the final and critical moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick reminder for everybody who's new in the broadcast, who just tuned in. Let's speak a little bit about what we're actually what the Olympiad is actually. So yeah, here you go. We've got a nice card for everyone. We are here with the Division 3 at the moment, and as you can see, Division 3, we're slowly moving towards the top division. And in the top division, we will determine who will face off for the medals in the stage 2 part. So currently Division 3, and every first three countries in the pool will move on to Division Two, and then in Division Two, countries will move on to the top division, and then the medals would be divided. So, yeah, a lot of action. Of course, let's see some of the top players that are participating here. Some nice players to look forward to. Of course, Ding Liren for China. Jan Nepomniachtchi for Russia, Alexander Grayshuk, Levin Aronian, Wesley So. Big names. Yeah, for me, of course, Anish Giri, I'm very happy that he's participating and representing the Dutch country. Or, well, I am happy, but on the other hand, maybe I would be playing if he wouldn't be playing, So maybe I'm a little bit sad. Who knows? Of course,
So
it's
you have
all
mixed
about
feelings
just
there.
mixed feelings. Yeah, I'm sure that everybody would love to see Anish Giri playing. He's such a legend, not only on the chessboard, but also on Twitter, of course. And
Yes,
actually,
I wanted to mention the Twitter. Yes.
yes, he's a big Twitter guy. Actually, while we're talking on Twitter, let's get this tweet up. He's actually been following the broadcast a little bit. And as you guys can see, here is his post. The Dutch guys taking over. Yeah, as you guys can see, this is brilliant stuff. Anish Giri, a legend, legendary personality, and of course, legendary chess player as well. Yeah, who are you a fan of? Like, is there a particular player you like to follow, like in tournaments or who plays exciting chess, for example?
I'm meaning from the top level chess
Yeah,
or
exactly.
from today's matches.
Let's say top level chess. Yeah.
Well, everybody likes the world champion, of course. I mean, why not? Name me one person who is a big fan, who isn't a big fan of Magnus Carlsen, right? So people, of course, are big fans, but I'm always more not really more closely following, but cheering for people who play interesting, dynamic, unorthodox chess, which uh, is a unique comparing to the other players. For example, I really like how Daniil Dubov is playing, and I think he's going to be one of the world's best players in the next years. Of course, I'm cheering for Jan Nepomniachtchi, who is a very dynamic attacking player, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. I really love how Shahryar Mamediyarov is playing. He's very interesting approach and a really unique way to play out the openings. So yeah, so that's pretty much my answer.
Yeah, a lot of good players to follow as well. Yeah, I mean, you're mentioning one of the top, absolute top player. Daniel Dubov is really showing his strength the past few years. I mean, I think he got the silver medal in the World Rapid Championship, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Wasn't he the
Um,
world rapid champion actually? I mean, again, I might be misplayed. I mean, he definitely was on the top in one of the previous championships.
yeah,
Yes, I
I'm
might
confused.
might
I'm
might mix
confused.
up with something that.
Yeah, at least he's doing extremely well, especially I think in the rapid and blitz section. He's beating people left and right, and yeah, also in Tata Steel, I think he performed pretty well as well. He got an invitation there last year at least. So, in any case, Daniel Dubov, I did not see on the list, unfortunately. At least not on the top
I think I
spots
think
of
the
Russia.
reason I think the reason Roland is that he is going to play in this Magnus Carlsen Tour final. I think he qualified for the final along with Magnus Carlsen. Who was it? Hikaru Nakamura, Daniil Dubov, and the fourth player was yeah, I don't remember who was the fourth. Dingler. Yeah, I think that's the reason why he's not going to play.
Exactly. And I got notice that the games are already started. And well, in the previous round, or actually the round before, we started with a London. So why not start with a London here as well? What do you think?
Um, something is something's happening here. I mean, feels like White has misplayed the London because there's this idea, of course, to play f4, bishop g3, and then the bishop comes to h4. But with this, well, I mean, why not? Maybe it's still okay. Knight, but it is black to move, right? Yeah, it is
Yeah,
black to
it's
move.
black to move. So I guess you're going to
Okay,
take
that
it.
changes something.
That changes a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a London gone wrong. Let's take a look at what happened in the opening then. So bishop f4, black played d5, e3, e6.
And again, London, right?
Yeah, again, London. I feel like I just saw London and I felt like, okay, why not make this a tradition? Let's always start with a London in the
So after this
in the start.
Olympiad, you can write a book about
Yeah,
the London in the online Olympiad.
yeah. If there's any publishers out there in the chat, let me know if you want me to make a London book. I have a lot of knowledge nowadays, but I think F4. Well, actually, White was pressured because the knight on E5. I think White played knight E5 a bit too quickly there. I think knight BD2 is the more normal move.
I've seen how Magnus Carlsen typically plays these positions. So his plan is somewhere along the lines to play, of course, to start with knight e2, but he includes bishop b5 to trade this bishop on c6, and then he tries to somehow play on the black squares at least. Not here, probably not here. Yeah, knight e5, like you said, I agree. It's too early. But if Magnus would play this, I think that's his typical approach to play bishop b5, bishop c6, and then keep this very nice control of the black squares.
Yeah, so for example, knight BD2, knight C6, and now a move like bishop B5 to try and keep the E5 square.
Something like that, yeah. But then again, might be mistaken. I think I remember seeing this idea. And then there's some idea to play take on C6, knight E5, and
yeah, exactly. So I've got all the games right now. So I'm really curious about Malaysia. Actually, not the Malaysia. Which match was it again? Was I think Malaysia Monaco. Yeah, I think I'm a bit confused here. Yeah, I think Malaysia Monaco. So those two teams are still in the race, or aren't they? Okay, I'm a bit confusing myself. At least let's take a look at if we can find some interesting games here. I think the Malaysian Monaco is the interesting matchup here. Both teams still in the race, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. At least, well, let's just find some interesting games. I'm going to put you
okay.
Here we go. What do you think?
Oh,
Monaco versus Malaysia. There you go.
black is losing something.
Yeah, something. Yeah, a little bit.
The rook on f8 is falling. What was this? It was some hyper-axolated dragon. Okay. What happened here? Ooh. E5. Look at this. And then knight e5. Although, again, queen b2. Was this necessary, though? Because queen d8. Then there's rook c6. Maybe that was the idea. What he missed, actually, from afar. That's nice.
Yeah, that looks really nice. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that black was, yeah, maybe just a little bit too passive, because if you allow e5, then the knight has to retreat somewhere. And queen b6 actually also playing in white's cards because of the knight d4 move later on. So maybe just a move like h6 would have been good to try and get the bishop out of this diagonal, for example.
I agree. I think h6 was a good move, and for example, if white would play bishop h4, this would give white some access to g5, knight h5 ideas, and presumably black can try to pressure on the d4 pawn. So yeah, bishop h2 and knight f4. Otherwise, the knight on h5 is under attack, and then you have this very powerful bishop on g7. I think this is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Black.
Okay, we got a first result. Let's see what happened. Oh, that was unfortunate. Queen c1. Oops.
Both as gambit, right?
Both as gambit. There you go. You're a big
There you
fan.
go. Did you have any both as gambits before?
Exactly. Queen takes b2. Yeah, we sometimes see those, but also, as you can see, these are the ratings, everybody, that you see next to the boards are actually the Chess.com ratings, but still, as you can see, they could be a bit of an indicator because there was over 1,000, well, not over, but almost 1,000 rating difference between the two. This wasn't a mouse slip, I think. This was an oversight, I believe.
You know, maybe it might be like this, that sometimes the hand makes the second move of the variation, because like you're thinking, okay, now I have to take queen takes on c1, then I'm going to play bishop e6, but the hand does something else. So you play bishop e6, and it's, oh.
Yeah, your brain is off further than the hand is, more or less, yeah? Or no, the hand is already further than... Okay, never mind. Try to make it work. Okay, let's move on. This game is over, so 1 point for Malaysia there. Let's see which one. Oh, what was this?
I think we saw a similar position already before, right?
I'm thinking, is this I was checking if this was the game from the previous round, but actually it's not. This is a new position.
That would be funny, actually, to analyze a position from the previous round and announce all of the ideas and then just understand that this is already finished.
We've got a difference actually. The pawn was h takes g3 this time. So in the previous round, we saw f takes g3. So that's a big difference, I think.
Right.
The knight on e4 can maybe be chased away with f3 at some point.
But f5, I think, is not a good move. Because here white has access to f3 right away. And after something like knight e2, I can even think about funny ideas of queen f5 or rook e6. Yeah, rook e6 is just even better, right?
I have to play king d7, it seems.
And
If I
queen
play knight
f5,
e7, you're just taking back and you win a pawn.
right.
So I have to play this.
And there should be something after queen f5, such a powerful discovered check. But then again, maybe knight b1, and maybe there's nothing. I mean, maybe there's nothing.
I'm gonna call you in this. What's happening after knight takes b1?
See, you're playing some poker, right? I mean, you don't believe my bluff. Yeah.
Yeah, poker is everywhere. I feel like sometimes you just have to gamble a little bit to get to a favorable position.
There's
But
nothing,
yeah,
is there?
even here you're gonna win a lot of pawns, I think. So just rook b1, and you still got good compensation. But I feel like there's something easier for white. f3 looks good, but after knight takes, maybe just take back and enjoy your how do you say positional advantage here? For
That's at
example,
least,
queen
yeah.
f6.
This is what I typically call the minimal program, the minimal variation. So if I see I can at least take knight takes on d2, and let's say my opponent does do this, so I think, okay, I can at least take knight d2, but I'll think about queen f5 and rook e6 as well. I mean, if it's gonna come to this, but pretty much
Yeah,
after f3, it's gonna come to this because
exactly.
black has to take it.
Yeah.
So this, it's on the
So
board, right?
let's see
Nice,
what
no.
happened. F5 is on the board. No new moves yet. So I think white is really thinking about a move like f3. You could also think of g4, by the way. That's
But
also
by the
an,
way, isn't f3 so clear after f3, knight g3, rook e6, and king f7? Maybe we just
well, knight f1. Oh
over-evaluated
wait,
this.
no.
Maybe it's not really that simple. Yeah, I thought that knight g3 is not
Yeah.
great, but then again, the knight on g3 protects the pawn on f5, and the king is seemingly safe. Maybe it's not really that simple.
You're threatening a move like knight f1. I mean, the king is still in a lot of danger here. I mean,
Right.
first you need to protect this pawn. So let's play a move like queen d7. And then let's say a move like knight a3 at some point. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's not that bad. Well, c4 is sometimes an idea, I guess, perhaps. But yeah, let's say a move like rook a8, and maybe black's just absolutely fine.
It
If king
seems so
f2,
because
knight
it's
h5.
difficult. Maybe even f4 is impossible. Queen h7 check. Yeah, so that's actually
Yeah,
quite important.
just knight h5, and you still have got attacking chances here.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe this is absolutely okay. Yeah,
So that's why he's thinking, actually.
g4 played instead. Nice. I like
That's
this
a good
move.
move. I also
Yeah.
like it.
So if f takes, then knight takes e4, and all these pawns are still weak. So yeah, what to do against this? Probably a move like short castle, right?
But then again, why did black play f5? I mean, he played f5 in order to keep the knight on e4.
Yeah.
And then after g4, suddenly, I mean, yeah, f5 doesn't really make sense to me, but
Yeah. Let's see what happens. So g4 on the board, and yeah, it's looking like white is going to have a good time, I would say. Yeah,
right.
just start attacking the king, the weak pawns, the knight on e4 after f3 it needs to be kicked back. So looking good for white, I would say. All right, let's
Yes,
move on
I agree.
to another game. Let's see if I can find something really interesting. Okay, this looks like fun. What's this? So Japan, Monaco. It is white to move here. Black just played bishop f8.
So
And
that's a
wow, there's,
gambit.
there's a
That's a
lot going
gambit
on.
there. So white has sacrificed a pawn for initiative. It looks really, really dangerous.
Yeah, you mean because of all these dark squares that might become
Yeah.
available for the knight, for example. Okay,
So,
concretely, bishop f8 is threatening bishop takes a3, so I guess we have to take. I think that should be on the board pretty soon.
right.
No, this is the current position. Well, white has to take, and let's say after king takes, I suppose, 94. Does that look like a good move?
Yeah, either knight d4, or I was just thinking as well, maybe I can think about d4, d5 ideas, because this knight on a5 is essentially shut out from action.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, bishop c6 and black is seemingly holding everything together. I have
Yeah.
a feeling black is going to collapse somewhere, but I mean, it's not that obvious. For example, there might be some line, for example, d4, bishop c6, and we sack a pawn, another pawn. Can we do this? d5? Probably take with I think with a bishop. You
All
think?
right.
I don't know, maybe. And the idea was to push e6, takes, and e6. Try to get to the king, and essentially we have all of the pieces.
I would
Yeah,
play rook
rook
e8
e8
here.
and queen. Knight g5 is also a move. Queen b2 is a move. I'm not sure. So it looks quite
This looks really dangerous for black
dangerous.
here.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, but you have to push. Like you're a pawn down, so you have to like make that pawn be worth something. I mean, my approach with 94, I think that's a bit too slow actually, because
But maybe knight e4 is just fine. I mean, why not? I mean, knight e4 is a good move. You're jumping to f6.
I guess we have to. Well, this loses material actually. After c takes, rook takes c7, the bishop is falling.
Right.
So actually, maybe you simply are not a pawn down if you play d takes c4 next.
So I would say knight e4 is the pragmatic move. So let's imagine some kind of scenario. Both of the moves are completely playable. So probably a positional player like who? I don't know, Petr Lekva. He'll play
Yeah.
knight e4 and d takes on c4. Shahriar Mamedjarov will play d4, d5. For example, I mean, it's
For
just a
example.
choice between the temperaments and how do you play it out. Yeah, but 94, I totally agree. It's a good move. It's you keep the things under control, and it's
Yeah,
actually quite important to keep things
still.
under control.
Well, what I'm a bit worried about though is that if, for example, if you move a knight to f6, let's say I play something easy like this, knight f6, then after king g7, the knight isn't really doing anything on f6. It's after rook h d8, the rook is coming out, the knight on f6 is more or less, yeah, just kicking some air in the black position.
So we just take the pawn and think later. I like this.
Just d takes c4 and then
Yeah,
think later.
it's
Yeah?
take and think later. I mean, because the position is materially equal, there might be some 95 ideas at the right time because there is this potential pin on the c file at the right of some knight g5 ideas, some knight h5 sacrifice ideas. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a complex position. Yeah, very
Yeah, so black
interesting.
needs to be careful.
Let's see. So yeah, white actually did not take, but went back to b2. Oof. Yeah, not a big fan of this move. Yeah,
Me
but
neither.
this move, I mean, there is a bishop on g2.
That's a very
Okay,
bold move.
both players are playing with fire, I think, but b5 might work because I don't see a good knight move actually. If you go here, the rook just moves. If you go here, the knight takes d4. So I don't see a good way of making use of this battery. So maybe b5 is just a good move. Wow.
Uh, I don't know. I would probably try to do one of the two ideas. One of them is throw every possible knight at the king, knight e4, knight f6, knight g5, and try to prove I have a very big attack. Or the other idea is still insist on this d4, d5, and especially with a bishop on f8. Now this idea d4, d5, I can sack another pawn and push e6. So for black, that might be more dangerous. And if necessary, I'm going to sacrifice a piece on c3. Yeah. So since this is not my game, I can always do this. So I mean, d4, b4, d5. Can I do this? I mean, it looks fun.
Wow. Balls of steel, I would say. B takes c3, bishop takes. Okay,
Okay,
e
but you
takes.
don't have to take. Yeah, that was my brilliant idea, of course. But you don't have to take. Yeah, of course, of
You
course.
don't have to take, indeed. You can
And
just
what if I play after? What was it?
something like this.
Okay, like this. No, but I'm just missing something, right?
I think so,
After
but Yeah, it's but it's clear. Your idea is absolutely clear. You could also play a move like
Yeah,
90.
knight e4. This is my second idea.
Yeah, still off to c3. It's I think that this d4. I think it's too much. I think you want to take here at some point too. And I like knight e4 here actually. Your idea with knight f6 and knight g5 looks pretty much okay.
You're
For
probably right.
example, let's say I play a move like rook c8. I think you're already losing because of knight f6, king e7. You have bishop a3 check again. And if you play king d8, then you have knight g5 ideas with knight f7. So, and rook d1, rook moves to the d file. So this is looking pretty good for white, I would say.
Right.
The king is still in the center. If it was on f8 and g7, then it would have been perfectly fine. But now it's yeah, it's tough. I think black needs to play bishop d7 here, and well, anyway, it's a big mess. Knight d6 looks interesting, maybe to try and
Yeah, and the knight g5 might be also additional move after that. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but b5 definitely felt like pouring fuel in the fire. So
Black has balls of steel. Jesus
he made a
Christ!
long castle. Unbelievable.
Long castle here. Yeah, I mean the king is perfectly safe
I
apparently.
love this. I mean, I really love this. This is really romantic chess. When you play b5, then you make a long castle like Dubov. Do you remember this famous game? Dubov against who was it? He made recently this long castle on king b1, and the king was uh, I keep forgetting. Maybe it was Artemiev. Okay, I'm sorry. I am forgetting because there was quite a famous game on Dubov. I mean, Dubov has already played quite a number of famous games, but all of them pretty much start with a long castle.
Yeah, a game that comes to mind in my head is Anand beating Kramnik in their World Championship match, where it was the semi-Slav opening. Anand sacrificed in exchange, and also there was this long castle. White was attacking with the pawns over there. The long castle move was not a brilliant move, but Black did choose to move into White's attacking potential there. I'm not sure which game it was, but it was a very exciting game. I think I did a how do you say, not an essay but like a report on that championship. So
Right.
yeah, but anyways, point clear. Short long castle, very dangerous, but it might actually work if the king is not under attack so far. But yeah, with all these pieces eyeing the queen side, is at least very dangerous.
But there was no reason to do this for Black because he could just play bishop e7, and if he's concerned about short castle, he can always play king f8. Yeah. So and the king feels sort of at the king side more safe. I mean, there are more pieces at the king side. Queen side is already open. There's so many chances for white to open so many more lines. D takes c4, a4. But okay, I mean, it's interesting. It's fun. Most importantly, it's fun. So this is what it's all about in most of the games in the online Olympiad. You play that for fun. I mean, this is not
Yeah,
really a world championship match. So
I think there is also nothing at stake for Japan anymore. They're not going to qualify for the next division. So yeah, why not make some spectacular moves,
right.
right? They know that Arthur is watching, of course, from the
I like this.
Chess.com
I like this
podcast.
game.
So
Yeah.
needs to be entertained like everybody else. Yeah, but I think I would definitely pick white here. But I think it's also time to move on. We have a lot of games still going on. I'm trying to find. There have been some results, some draws, some wins here. This was a quick beatdown between Syria and New Zealand. I think they're both out of contention. So trying to find a game where Malaysia, Monaco. Okay, wait, I'm going to find. Okay, this one we've just had. Japan, Singapore, I believe this is. Yeah, Singapore. So Singapore already qualified, and this is looking brilliant, I believe, for black. Just queen h3, knight takes f3. It's white to move, but still huge threat in the position, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah,
White looks completely busted here.
yeah. All right, I'm going to. Okay, Singapore. This is Monaco, Malaysia, I believe. Yeah, this looks interesting. So typical King's Indian position, I believe. Yeah, or are there
Colors
some?
reversed, right?
Sorry.
Colors reversed. It seems that white is playing the king's Indian.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, what are the differences here, and which color would you pick?
Definitely white. Because for black, what's missing is the light square bishop. So in these typical positions, you need the light square bishop because the knights, they don't get such a nice control of those squares, of course. So this is why black is trying to play 5 and compensate this. But I would try to play something like this: bishop e3. I mean, maybe not right away because black just played f5, but I was thinking about maybe queen a4 or queen b3 and play the thematic a6.
Yeah, like David Bronstein showed us in the 50s or 60s, I believe. Yeah, he was a big advertiser
Right.
of structures like this. He showed us how to play more or less, and yeah, I think yeah, even players like Gary Kasparov took note of Bronstein's games in positions like this. So, for example, Queen A4, for example, Queen B3, and I think the idea is to maybe play something like this to try and get the light squares. Totally under control. Yeah, I like it. I like Queen A4 as well because, for example, if Black plays a weird move like H6, then you can even try to even think about exchanging on C6 because the knight on C4 would be uncontested then. Although, of course, here A6 would be much better even.
So after queen a4, most likely black would have to play a6,
Yeah.
or better do it sooner than later. For example, what was the move here? Maybe actually here white could. He cannot push a6 immediately because there's going to be b5, right? I was thinking about how to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah, queen a4, a6, and now did you want to take on c6?
I was considering it, yeah, because I mean, if you exchange, well, actually, I did not consider the black can just take with the b pawn, and then with the queen d5 move coming, yeah, this might become very rough for white actually.
Yeah, and f5, f4 is incoming with some potential attacking ideas for black. Yeah.
Yeah. So taking on c6 probably not the best idea. Yeah, this bishop is a big problem. Yeah, you want to move it to a good square, but it doesn't really have a square to go to. Maybe bishop e2.
Ron, I'm thinking maybe the initial valuation was wrong because no, really, because usually I trust my instincts, and when I look at the position, I get the first impression. So pretty much, I think you also do the same, and you look at the position, so you formulate your evaluations. White is better, black is better. But here, my first impression was, okay, black is missing the light square bishop, so this means he should be worse. But the more I'm looking at the position, I'm struggling to formulate a plan for white because bishop e3 runs directly into f4. So it might be not easy, and some knight g5 might be incoming. And I don't want to make even more weaknesses by playing h3, h4. So
you could play maybe something like knight b6. And then maybe something like queen c4. I agree. It's not so easy to find a good plan. Knight b6, the queen moves, and what then for white, you know? And maybe also sometimes there are e4 tricks in the position. For example, if you play like this and you're being a bit careless with a move like queen b3, then already e4 is interesting because f2 is a battery like this. So yeah, it's a very double-edged position. Like I always say in broadcasts, sometimes jokingly, because because it's such a cliche thing to say, but it's dynamically balanced. What do you think?
Unclear. That's my favorite expression. Unclear. It's unclear. When you don't know what to say, just say unclear.
Unclear. Yeah.
Unclear.
I like dynamically balanced. It's like it's got a ring.
That's the next level.
Yeah, the hardest thing to do is to play simple chess, you know?
Right.
Oh, that's
okay.
Good. No, that's beautiful.
So who's the move here? f5 and queen e2 was played, right?
Yeah, queen e2 on the board.
So I think apart from this game will depend how, if white is skilled enough, scratch that. I just wanted to say something smart. But knight e4, look at this. That's a big move.
Does it
look
work?
At this.
Oh, that might be brilliant, actually.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. Knight f3 is incoming threat. Look at this. Wow.
Does it work though? I mean, okay, if queen e3, f4, you would like to take back with f3 with the queen.
There's also a fork, knight c2.
Yeah, knight c2, winning material here.
But then again, white probably will have to do this. I imagine, I'm already probably skipping ahead, but I would imagine white will have to do this because everything else looks so dangerous.
What about queen f1? Okay.
Yeah,
so-
knight f3,
okay.
knight f3,
This-
and queen d5.
I'm gonna run with the king.
e4. And what is this? It's super dangerous for black. For
Safe,
white, I suppose.
safe only one. No, we'll
No, but
see.
it's already 2 pawns. I mean, if I'm gonna take on d3, it's 2 pawns for the sacrifice piece. I think black is just
Too much.
crushing.
Wow, this is brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff.
Great move, knight
Let's see
e4.
what happened. So take needs to be played. Knight takes. This is the current position. If the queen moves here, you have knight c2. If you move, the queen moves. Where?
I think white will have to play queen e3. Like I said before, I'm jumping ahead, and after knight c2, play queen c5.
You can play f4 as well, by the way. I'm not too sure how great that is, but I guess you take, yeah?
Yeah.
And after e takes, you play queen e4, and then you're threatening queen takes here.
Right.
So I guess f4 is not an option. I guess you have to play knight c2. But then after queen takes c5 takes, and the knight is temporarily out of place.
And essentially, it is only an exchange. No, bishop g5 is a threat, immediate threat. Yeah, and the knight is under attack, and rook c8, queen a7 forces a line, and not necessarily white is worse here.
Yeah, also knight b. This looks. Oh, I don't know what this is. What is this? I guess
It's
you
unclear.
have queen b4. Yeah. Dynamically balanced. Yeah, I agree.
That's your response. I'll say unclear. Yeah. Tactically
This is
balanced or unbalanced.
good stuff. But yeah, queen e3. Let's see if white finds that move. No, queen e1 played. No, wait, that's not true. Wait. No, this is on the board. This is on the board.
I think so, because this made most sense, this continuation. So also white correctly assessed the position. So he had to drop the piece, but you have to give a lot of credit for black for going for this idea. That was a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
but
that
the
was
problem
very,
is
yeah.
It might just have a refutation.
Yeah, so I think black has to play knight b3. If you play rook c8, queen takes a7, those are going to be a lot of pawns after knight b3.
And queen b7, right.
Then a6, a8 at some point. You have to trade queens as well, because if you play a move like this, then the knight on b3 will fall. Or maybe instead of knight b3, knight c2 is a little more accurate, because then after queen takes b7, you can actually play rook c7 and the knight's not attacked anymore.
Right.
But still, this pawn is looking very, very dangerous for
it's difficult to evaluate this properly, because the real evaluation comes what happens after this. If he stayed at this position, what happens after if black plays this knight d4 and the bishop on f3 might have no suitable squares to retreat. Yeah, so this is actually very, very interesting. Although, yeah, queen d5 is a move. But let's say white would play something like queen b6 queen b6. So knight d4, and the question is, how do you defend against knight f3 and queen d5 threat? Not so sure, but okay, queen d5 is a move. So.
Yeah, I think white needs to trade queens, otherwise it's going to be in a world of trouble. Well, you could play queen a4 still, maybe. The more I look at this, the more I think that, well, actually, no, it's dynamically balanced. Let's move on. I don't know.
I completely agree with you.
My gut says that white is probably better, because here this pawn is going to be huge, and if the bishop is ever going to get exchanged, which I highly doubt, then actually you can play simply knight d4.
I'd like to add a little thing here for the viewers. Here you see typically two GMs are discussing their thoughts of process, and it's not like always GM comes in and says, okay, it should be like this or should be like that. We also are humans, and sometimes we are just guessing. So you cannot really jump in a very sharp position and say, okay, this is obvious stuff, you have to do this or that. And here, one mistake and the position's evaluation completely changes. So we are using this term dynamically, what did you say? Unbalanced. We have to just spend more time. If we would have like 5-10 minutes, I think we would come down to the proper evaluation and exactly how to how exactly to evaluate this position. But with 1 minute, it's not really that easy.
No, exactly. And by the way, guys, we're not using engines at the moment. We're just Yeah, sharing everybody our thoughts, and yeah, of course, because playing with engines is just a bit boring. It's like opening the answer book when you're trying to solve a puzzle, more or less. So yeah, we're just sharing our thoughts. Maybe yeah, yeah, and actually, you can follow the games yourself. We have a command for that, or we can share a link in the chat if the guys behind the scenes are listening. I hope they do. But in any case, yeah, very interesting position. We'll keep an eye on that. Okay, not interesting anymore. Yeah,
Something happened there.
yeah, something big happened. Look at the time scramble, by the way. Both players still down to the last seconds here. So increment is going to be a factor.
So black desperately needs to trade the bishop. Scratch that. It's not going to happen. So
E4. Wow.
okay, the question is, can white get his pawn rolling c5, c6? Yeah, bishop e7. That's a nice move. And only white is playing here for the win.
Oh, what do you think about this? Does this work?
Yeah, c6, unfortunately.
Yeah, so take c7 and the pawn is going.
Unfortunately for black.
So that's a trick that. So bishop b5 played out. That's unfortunate. I really was hoping to see that trick. But after bishop d4,
And now black is fine again. Knight e5.
looks like a draw to me, actually. I don't see how after knight c5 white can play for a win here.
Assuming black wants to draw.
Yeah, that's also a big question, of course. We've got still some, yeah, some spots open for the next division. So the top three teams moving on to the next division, everybody. And as you can, the countries to watch out for. So on the left, you can see the current results. They are updating. We are updating that as much as we can. Look at Albania winning their match already 5-0, as you can see. And also Ireland looking strong with a 3-0 victory. Well, no, that's not a victory yet, but the 3-0 lead against South Korea. Those two teams are looking strong for the last two spots in this pool, because Singapore has already been qualified. So those
Right.
guys looking very, very strong. All right, let's see if I can find some interesting games still. The games are slowly coming to an end. There are only a few games left. Let's see what this is. Um, Not okay. Black's a piece up. Never mind. So that's over. An interesting end game, perhaps.
Oh, this could be fun.
Yeah. What do you think? Share us your thoughts.
That's a draw. Knight d4, knight c2 check. So the question is if white is going to find it.
Yeah, knight d4, b3, knight c2 check. And it's a draw because after taking, the a pawn cannot advance because of opposition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe there's also a different way to reach this, because I sort of recognize this idea from somewhere else, from some in-game studies perhaps.
Black played king a1. What if black played b3? I guess knight c3.
Knight c3, yeah, knight a4. And king a3 is simply king b1. And you can always give up the knight on a4, of course.
Yeah, you
At
can
least
take
right away. Yeah, just right away. And that's just a theoretically drawn endgame.
Yeah, very clear. Let's see. So let's see if white manages to make a draw. King a1, knight c3 played. Same story,
That's nice.
but
That's
different.
nice. But does it
What
work
about
really? Does it really work?
What about this?
Wait a second. This is a no. King a2. This is a mistake. Oh no, king a2, king c3 is still a draw.
King b1.
I thought king b1, but king b4. So knight c3 right away. I wouldn't have played this, but maybe it's still a draw. a3 you said, right?
Yeah, I was thinking this, yeah, because you're threatening b3, b2.
And what about king c2?
I
B takes and king c1. That still looks like a draw.
Still a draw, right? Yeah, because if king a2, king c2, there's nothing that black can do. Knight c3, nice find.
Nice. Still the same idea that with the a pawn and c pawn, the strongest side cannot win because his king is imprisoned in the corner. Hadn't seen it for some time, actually. That's nice.
A3 on the knight b1 though. Oh, this is sneaky. If you play a2, it's actually
He's playing for the win. Look at this. A little applause.
that's
That's
sneaky.
nice.
Oh
That's
wow.
nice.
You,
Nice
you might
attempt.
never
Love
know.
it.
They are a little bit in time trouble, so probably king a2 though, and then knight c3 back.
That's even better.
It's playing with fire
But
though.
again, A2 is very difficult to make because knight e2 is the obvious continuation, of course. But
Right.
stranger
Some
things have
moves being
happened.
played. Okay, and it's a draw. All right, let's move on. So let's move on to another rook ending. We've got Albania, it seems, versus Hong Kong. So Albania already winning the match with 5-0. So this is the last game in that match, and it looks like, is this winning for whites or is this a
It
draw? The
seems
king
so.
is cut off.
Yeah, but the king so far away. Although e3 was a good practical move, and king g5 has to be. No, why do you do this? King g5 had to be played to bring the king closer to the action, and now this again feels like lost.
The king is
Okay, I
way
mean
too
players
far
are playing
away.
on the last seconds. Rook a6 is just 2 pawns, connected pawns. That's an easy win. White is gonna convert the position with a3, a4, b and c pawns.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Okay,
king e2, king c2, king b2, and a4. That's
fine.
it.
King e2 also wins, I think. King
Right.
f4 maybe. Just a4.
But the critical moment, can you check this a couple of moves ago? I'm pretty sure here white is going to win after, I think the last chance. This e3 was a good attempt. And after rook e6, I think black had to play king g5 and king f5. I'm not so
Yeah,
sure is this
rook
so
takes,
easy.
king f5, and you cannot move the rook closer. What about c4 though? Is this a drawn rook ending?
Feels like some theoretical endgame. B takes, and give a lot of frontal checks. Check, check, check. Not to allow the pawn to cross the middle of the board.
Yeah, very
And the king will
typical.
have to hide. Although I don't know. I mean, king b4, king a5, and rook c3. But anyway, I mean, black had no choice. He had to try this.
Yeah, this looks like a good attempt. I mean, the king is on a5, but the rook is protecting everything. We're just messing around a little bit. Probably it's a better attempt to just play king here. And after rook c8, maybe to try and put a rook on a more active square. For example, rook e7, rook a7, and then, I don't know, try to put something like this on the board. I think white still has winning chances. The king is very far away still, so yeah.
Well, then again, if the black king manages to land on b7, according to Dvoretsky, that's a drawn endgame.
Yeah,
A and
that's
c
true.
pawn in the rook
Yeah,
endgame.
that's true. I
Easier
according
said
to
than done, of course.
Dvoretsky, yeah, yeah, absolutely. What a legend. All right, let's move on. This looks winning for white, of course. If we take a look at the current, oh,
And that's wait a second. Now this is a theoretical position. Let me try to remember.
I think rook c8, right?
Yeah, definitely. Rook c8 has to be played. That's the only move. Otherwise, if white is pushing the pawn over the middle of the board, that becomes a winning position. After rook c8, I just try to remember.
Building a
The
bridge,
king.
perhaps. King b4,
Yeah,
check.
that's no progress. Wait a second. Yeah, it's rook c7. I think the rule was this. What were the couple of moves before? The king for the defending side has to be kept on the 5th and the 6th rank. Here, what was the last move for a couple of last moves?
So check.
So the
King
king is
c3.
already on f4. Yeah, here. He has to be kept. King f5, king f6, king f5, according to Mark Dvoretsky's endgame manual. I think this position was in the book. And
Rook
I even
e1.
did a bootcamp about the rook endgames. You might check my my Twitch channel. Probably the video is already not there. It's exported to my YouTube channel. I think I already did a video about this, about the rook endgames. It was one of my very first boot camps, the training camps online done in Twitch. And I think the objective evaluation was that it was a draw, but again, I might be mistaken because these positions, they're very similar. Now that the pawn has crossed the middle of the board, it's winning for white.
Yeah,
I
that's
believe was
absolutely
the
true.
rule.
So this was the interesting moment. What if black played not king f5 but rook c8? And that is the big question you were talking about, right? Because now the king is on f4. If it was on f6, it probably would be a draw. But since the king is over here, then we've got this rook c7 idea. So let's say check like this, king c5, king here. Oh, wait, king rook b8, king c6. And if the king was Well, closer, then it would be a draw. But and if the since the king is here, then after rook c8, you have rook c7, and yeah, it's still very good winning chances for white. I think this should be winning for white. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a bridge. We are building a bridge, and the pawn has crossed the middle of the board, and the
and
bridge. Yeah, everybody should know
sometimes it's
this.
a draw, but the king is also on the long side, while you want to have it on the short
Ah,
side.
you mean hide the king behind the pawn? Yeah, but I don't think that's gonna happen. There
No,
was
I
this
also
drawish
don't
idea
think
to
so.
put the king behind the pawn, not
The
in
king
front of the
should
pawn.
be here, but now it's here, and then it's winning for white.
Yeah.
Ah, very interesting. Yeah, some endgame lessons. This is the current position, and c8 is next, and so white will win this. Okay, all the games are coming to a close. I see only one more game besides this one, and that's this position. Ooh, another rook ending. Looks like a draw, right?
Yeah, it looks like a draw. Even without the g pawn, that's a draw, unless of course black is playing for the win. Because this is a theoretical draw without the g pawn. King h3 is an important move to know, not king g1, but that would be with the white king one square closer. So black is
Isn't
playing for the win. Wait a second.
isn't this winning for black? Ah,
What
wait,
happened?
I've got a way to play this. Rook b1 or king f4, yeah, g3, king f3, g2, and now rook here.
Knight g1.
Oops, I have a pre-move.
Knight g1 is king f2, and I cannot steal queen.
Yeah, still not queen because of
Still
rook
not queen.
h8. So, yeah, let's see if
I
that
don't remember this
happens.
position, to be honest.
So we've got g3 on the board.
Is this a critical match for qualifying? Probably not.
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
that both teams. Oh, what rook a8 immediately? Ah, that also works. Yeah, because h1 was. Yeah, this should be a draw. It seems.
That's nice. And to avoid repetition play in the next move, rook a7. And yeah, but it's still gonna repeat after king g2. I was thinking about how to prolong the game.
No, this is a draw.
Yeah, that's a draw.
And there you have it. I think this was the last game of the round, yeah, of pool A. Actually, pool A is now finished. You see on the left the results of pool A, but also we've got the results for pool B. Pool B was playing for round 7, so here on the left we have a little change of that match as well. So of course we'll keep you updated on that as well. And let's see what happened in pool B. So Scotland winning their match 5.5 to Botswana. Portugal, the current leader in that pool, winning 4.5, 1.5. Sri Lanka also still in the race, winning against the IPCA with 4-2. IPCA, International Physical Disabled Chess Association, and Nigeria losing 0-6 to Angola, and Tajikistan winning 5-1 to United Arab Emirates. So yeah, we are going to that pool is still going on, of course. Round 8 and round 9 are going to be played, but let's take a look at pool A. Let's see what the final results are, perhaps, or the standings. Or oh, actually, let me correct myself there. Pool B, the standings. Let's see what's going on in there, of course. So actually, Sri Lanka currently in the lead there with 11 match points. IPCA and Portugal also in the lead still.
Wow,
Still
look at
looking
that.
good.
Wow, that was quite close.
Yeah, it's a very close match, isn't it? With also Tajikistan and Scotland still in the race for qualification there. Very tight packed group there. Yeah. So yeah, let's give also an overview just to give people an indication of which countries are participating in Division 3. So as you can see, a lot of good teams in there like Denmark, Chile, Portugal, Bolivia. Actually, if you're going to tune in later, everybody, we've got an exciting Pool D actually, which I call the pool of death, with big countries participating who have got grandmaster lineups with Denmark, Chile, Venezuela, Bolivia, all in one pool. So stay tuned for that. And let's take a look now at the standings. Yeah, so we have got Pool A currently updated. And yep, there you go. Singapore qualified already before the last round being played. And they are qualified together with Ireland, yes, the big surprise, I think, in this pool, and Albania clinching it in the last round. So these three teams will move on to the next division. And yeah, Pool B, as you can see, we will see what's going to happen with that pool later. And of course, also later in the day, the rest of the pools are also going to be decided. So stay tuned for that. That was it for this morning, at least. This was very exciting to me. And actually, that's also the end of the broadcast for now. We are going to go on a 1 hour break where we are going to, yeah, stretch our legs. We commentators, of course, are having a long day of commentary ahead of us. So sometimes we need to eat some food, to stretch our legs, to do some
Do the
push ups.
push-ups. Yeah.
Yeah. We had the same joke there in mind. Yeah. And actually, Arthur, thank you so much for joining the broadcast. Of course, this will be the end of you for today. But yeah, thank you so much. It was lovely having you as a co commentator, of
Yeah,
course.
thank you again for the opportunity, and I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of today's broadcast. And it was really lovely that you were following it. Hope you're enjoying the stuff, and just don't miss the next broadcast as well.
Yeah. And yeah, once again, thank you. And everybody, don't forget to follow him on his Twitch channel. You can see the Twitch channel under our cameras there. So, yeah, type that in, give him a follow, and enjoy his streams. And also check out his YouTube channel, of course. So, once again, thank you very much for joining, Arthur. And everybody, we'll see you back in 1 hour for more Olympia 2020 action. We'll be back with Pool B and Pool C in 1 hour. So, see you then, everybody.
Goodbye.